Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be doing a special deep dive into the 2024 Xbox Game Showcase, talking about all the massive announcements going top to bottom throughout the whole thing, my insight, your guys' thoughts and opinions, and just going over and celebrating all this amazing news we have to dig into after months of seemingly endless, negative, unfortunate, and pessimistic news coming from the Xbox ecosystem. We finally have something really encouraging and fun and exciting to talk about, and lots of it. So I'm really excited to get into all that with you guys today. Let's get going. Welcome. I don't really know how to start this week's episode because I've been so used to following my little structure, my little notes format that I've been using for like 260 something weeks at this point. So yeah, welcome to the special episode 2024 Xbox Game Showcase announcement, whatever, Xbox On podcast edition. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Guys, I'm so glad to be here with you all this Sunday afternoon. I don't usually record on Sundays, but what are we going to do? Let this news sit and fester for 3-4 days without talking about it? We got to get right into it. So we're coming hot off the heels of Xbox having their big summer showcase event, followed by their Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Direct. And wow, I mean, I think we all kind of felt that this was going to be a good one this year. There was just a feeling in the air that the stars had aligned, everything had kind of lined up in a way where there was going to be a lot to talk about, and not only that, but a lot to talk about in the near future. Not just games that are coming out God knows when, but games that are going to be coming out this year, next year, and, you know, hopefully not too far after that. And boy, oh boy, did Xbox not only deliver on our modest expectations that we were going to have a pretty good showcase to look forward to, but I think they even crushed that. Like, I usually have I wouldn't say pretty high expectations, but I feel like I'm somewhat difficult to please with these showcases because I understand at the end of the day, these things have to be geared towards a wide audience. You have to have a little something for everyone. And so I come in knowing that there's going to be at least a handful of games that aren't my thing, and that's okay. Obviously, not everything's got to be for you, but I don't know, man. Like I came in expecting this one to be like, there will be more games that I'm interested than usual. However, of course, there will be games I don't care about. But in the case with this event, I'd say the overwhelming majority of games they showed were games that directly speak to players like me. And I think just judging by the initial reaction to the internet and seeing how people are responding to the showcase, it seems like a lot of people felt very similarly to me in that we just had a wonderful showcase. Apologies if I sound a little off. I have not. I just realized it's like the first time I've spoken basically all day. I got up this morning. I tried to grind out a few hours of Destiny 2 before I had to start on this, and I just basically spent the whole day with my Surface in my lap, glued to the TV, just watching, typing, copy, pasting, looking up articles, writing notes. So this is like the first time I've actually really extensively, beyond like good morning to my girlfriend, that I've really talked at all today. So it's just kind of jarring, but man, I'm excited. It's tons and tons to get into. So let's just get right down to it. First of all, we got to make an amendment to last week's episode because on Thursday, when the most recent episode of Xbox On came out, I said there would be 2 new episodes most likely, and I think I said one of them would be Friday. So let me just clarify what the plan is. So obviously this podcast that I'm doing right now, you're getting this earlier than usual. We're not going to title this episode 263. We're going to make this special episode 2024 Xbox Game Showcase, whatever we're going to call it, something to that effect. So this is going to be a non-numbered, just random bonus episode just dedicated to the Xbox Game Showcase and that alone. Now, as of the time I'm recording this, Summer Game Fest has already happened, as well as a handful of big Xbox stories have already broken this week, including this rumored Halo Combat Evolved remaster/remake that is planned to come to not only Xbox but PlayStation. So there are some big news stories to talk about already. Summer Game Fest, and tomorrow we'll have the Ubisoft Forward event. We're not going to get into any of that right now. right now is just about the Xbox Game Showcase. It's a special episode dedicated to that. This will go live Monday morning. And then on Thursday, just 3 days later, you'll get your regular weekly episode of Xbox On. That'll be episode 263. And during that episode, we can get into the news. We'll talk about Halo and PS5. We'll talk about Summer Game Fest and what a mediocre show that was. We can talk about Ubisoft Forward, and I'm just tapping into my mind-reading psychic abilities. Okay, it's not going to be all that great. They're going to talk about Just Dance. No one's going to give a shit. They're going to show Assassin's Creed. No one's going to give a shit. It's going to be another Ubisoft event. I'm sure there will be at least 1 or 2 games worth paying attention to, but I'm not holding, I'm not going to delay the podcast over Yves Guillemot getting up on stage to be like, we are going to do the Raving Rabbids meet the Illumination Minions at Universal. And I'm not going to do that, because that would make me want to put bullets not only in my brain, but it would make me want to become a savant and learn the science behind cloning, so I could clone myself 1,000 times, so I could shoot myself in the face 1,000 more times, because that's how much I would hate for that to be a thing that I hang my hat on. That something I have to wait day in, day out, waiting for it to happen so I can cover and tell you guys about it, because no one cares. I want to talk to you guys about Gears of War. I want to talk to you about Perfect Dark. I want to talk to you about South of Midnight. I want to talk to you about games that are worth wasting our breath over, and I don't. Just Dance can wait, okay? That's all I'm going to say. So that's the first thing. This episode will go live Monday. Thursday, you'll get your regular weekly scheduled episode where we'll talk about all the other things. Hey, we got to talk about Sonic Generations in Shadow at some point, so it's not all going to be boring. Now, with that out of the way, let's get right into what we're talking about today. So the Xbox Game Showcase, the way I want to structure this, as I was watching the show, I was basically taking notes of everything that happened in sequential order. So we have 31 items that were discussed during the showcase that we're gonna get into. So we'll go line by line on all of that. Afterwards, I want to look at the last week. I didn't make predictions, but 10 things that I was looking forward to or assuming we would see. Things I was just kind of looking forward to seeing more of, and we'll see which of those things didn't even happen, how I feel about those things now that some of them have happened, and we'll kind of touch back on that and compare and contrast based on our expectations versus what happened at the showcase. And I think we'll see that overwhelmingly it was just a lot of good shit, and there's a lot of positivity and exciting things to discuss there. And then after that, what I want to do is kind of go over Xbox's slate going into the rest of 2024, into 2025 and beyond, so we can kind of do a rough mapping of what the Xbox slate looks like going forward. And then I want to go over just overall thoughts. We'll do a separate little side discussion about the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Direct, since that was also a big component of the showcase. And then I have a couple of write-ins from you guys, the audience. I quickly solicited some feedback on Twitter, and some of you guys responded quickly, so thank you for that. We'll go into your comments and see what you guys thought about the showcase. And that's just about it. But without further ado, let's just get going, because this is really exciting. There's tons to get into, and so starting off with item number 1. All right, so hopping into item number 1. So if you're watching the stream on YouTube, it's doing the countdown. It's like 4 minutes till, it's doing that countdown, 4 minutes till the show starts, whatever. And then it does this really cool little thing where once it got to 45 seconds down on the countdown, it scratches out and then starts doing like this Black Ops transition and goes down 45 more seconds until it can transition into the show, starting off with Call of Duty, which I thought was just a cool little aesthetic touch, a nice little way to kick things off on a little bit of an exciting, unpredictable note. And so we kick things off with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and just kidding, Black Ops Gulf War, just kidding, Black Ops 6. I don't know why that's hard for me to say. It's just a weird naming convention when you do Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, which is unrelated to the other Black Ops games, Black Ops 4, which is unrelated to the other Black Ops games, Black Ops Cold War, which is technically Black Ops 2, and then Black Ops 6. Whatever. Doesn't matter, because this game looks fucking awesome, as we all knew it would be, because Treyarch make the best Call of Duties. So they show the first trailer. It's got tons of campaign gameplay footage, tons of cutscene footage. We got Russell Adler's back. He's kind of the antagonist of the game now. If you followed the seasonal multiplayer content during Black Ops Cold War, you already kind of know he's the bad guy. Not to mention at the end of the campaign, he's also kind of shown as the bad guy. So he's kind of your main antagonist now in this game. Woods is back, and yes, he is in a wheelchair, which confirms that this is very much in the same Black Ops timeline as the original games. So we know that this game now takes place after the events of some key moments in Black Ops 2, but obviously before the end of Black Ops 2, since Black Ops 2 predominantly takes place in the year 2025. So set in the early 90s, just after the Cold War ends. but before the events of the latter half of Black Ops 2. That's where this game is set. Alex Mason's nowhere to be seen, so presumably he is dead. Spoiler alert for the 12-year-old game that is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Hopefully that's not the case. I don't know. It'd be really cool if they find a way to work him into this story somehow. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, this game looks very much like a direct sequel to Black Ops Cold War that we got 4 years ago. The only thing is now they've had 4 years to work on this game, and there's no development hell behind this game the way there was with Black Ops Cold War, which, if you remember, there was the whole ordeal where Sledgehammer and Raven were working on that game together. Then it wasn't coming together. So in the last year, Activision said, nope, fuck you, Sledgehammer, you're off this project. And then they tapped in Treyarch and said, hey, can you turn this into a Black Ops game and salvage it? And so then together, Raven Software and Treyarch, pulled it out of their asses and basically turned whatever that project was into Black Ops Cold War. And it still managed to be a really great game despite all the ups and downs during the development that game experienced. Well, presumably, unless there's any big story yet to come out, we'll wait for, Jason Schreier or someone to tell us otherwise. Unless there's some big unknown development hell story about this game, it's seemingly so that this game had a clean 4-year development cycle between just Treyarch and Raven Software, with of course support work from some other teams, but predominantly between those two teams, and that they were able to flesh out and make a fully envisioned Call of Duty Black Ops experience. So I'm excited to see a game like Black Ops Cold War, which was so great despite its its development hell and shortcomings, a follow-up to that game, but have the money and the time and everything to do it right and do it all the way through to the finish line. So I think this game's going to be pretty fucking cool. If you like the spy, espionage, cool government twists, lies, all that crap that comes with Black Ops games, I think this game is going to deliver in that regard. It seems like it will. But we'll talk about this game a little bit more at the end of the show, because they showed the teaser trailer, or the campaign trailer, I should say. They confirm, hey, yes, indeed, it is Game Pass Day 1. Yes, it's coming out October 25th, whatever. And then that's it. Phil Spencer comes out, the show starts, and then we don't see Call of Duty until the end of the presentation. So, getting to that, Phil Spencer comes out, and he does the whole, welcome to the Xbox Showcase. I'm Phil Spencer, and I have armpit hair, unless I shave it. Then I don't have armpit hair. Whatever the hell he said. I don't know. But he did mention, hey, this is the first time you're seeing Xbox and Call of Duty on stage together. You're seeing a Call of Duty game at one of our showcases. First time in 10 years, and yes, indeed, it has been 10 years. The last time a Call of Duty game was marketed with the Xbox brand was 2014, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Yet you'll remember it because beginning the next year with Black Ops 3, that is when PlayStation acquired the marketing rights for Call of Duty, made that big old deal with Activision where not only Call of Duty, but also Destiny was a PlayStation marketed franchise. And that was really the beginning of the end for Xbox and all of its heavily associated Xbox 360 era games. Halo 5 was largely a disappointment to a lot of people. Gears 4 was in a lot of ways a disappointment to a lot of people, I guess because a lot of people had bad taste. I don't know. And then they lost the marketing rights with Call of Duty. Freaking Halo, Gears of War, and Call of Duty, that's the trinity of the Xbox 360 platform. And then you'll remember that was kind of the beginning of wow, Xbox is just really not what they were a few years ago, huh? But Phil Spencer makes it a point to mention, hey, this is the first time we've been on stage with Call of Duty in 10 years. We're happy to be here together. Game Pass Day 1. We want to put this game on a lot of platforms. Basically, without directly saying PlayStation, emphasizes we're not trying to take this game away from anyone. Everyone will have access to it. And he even throws a little bit of shade at PlayStation, kind of indirectly, by saying, when this game has its beta or its playtest, it's going to be available to everyone. We're not going to do exclusive content. Just because we have Call of Duty now doesn't mean we're going to hoard exclusive content or exclusive time frames for demos or modes or any of that shit. When Call of Duty happens, when there's a beta, when there's a new mode, when there's new content, everyone gets it. And he emphasizes that without saying fuck you PlayStation, which is, I think, a really great way to open the show by kind of bragging, hey, we got Call of Duty, and also being a good sport about it by being hey, we're also not going to be total fucking dicks and withhold content from people, because that would suck, wouldn't it, PlayStation, huh? 10 years of PlayStation, as I sit here in the year 2024, still a fan of Call of Duty, still a fan of Destiny, and in fact, I'm in the middle of playing the final shape right now in Destiny 2, and I'm just wondering and remembering and still reeling from the many years and years of Destiny content I was robbed from, but still charged the same amount of money for because I chose to play on Xbox and not PlayStation. Doesn't that fucking suck? Fuck you, Activision. Fuck you, PlayStation. But also, fuck you, Xbox. I'm still not over what you did to Tango Gameworks. Anyway, what the fuck are we saying? So that's how the show opens, and I thought, before we move on to item number 2, I just want to say, not only was this showcase great in terms of the games shown and how, and just how many awesome games we got to see, but also the pacing was phenomenal, I gotta say, because it was just game, boom, game, 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 game. Game trailer, game announcement, game follow-up, release date, gameplay, cutscene, gameplay, cutscene. It was great on the pacing and the timing. But also when it comes to like the in-between moments where it's like, now this executive is going to come out and say a thing. They had one moment with Phil, followed by one moment with Matt Booty, followed by one moment with Sarah Bond. And they were all very, very brief. And I really appreciate that they didn't linger. They didn't waste our time. They didn't talk about gamers in the center of the universe or any of that nonsense. They were just like, hey, I'm here. I'm one of the faces of Xbox. We're doing a thing. Let's get back to the games. And I was like, thank you. That was awesome. So Phil Spencer basically transitions out of throwing some shade at PlayStation and promising to keep Call of Duty for everyone, and then transitions right into Doom. He goes, now it's my distinct pleasure to show you guys a game that kicks ass. And kick ass this game it did do in the trailer, because we got Doom the Dark Ages, the game that has been leaking and rumoring like crazy the past week or two, was revealed and shown. Yes, Doom the Dark Ages is exactly what the report suggested it was. It is Doom set in like some weird medieval period hellish environment where you have a chainsaw shield and there's a mech suit and there are flying dragons, and it is fucking badass. It is something about like this medieval hell setting seems very adjacent to the hell setting of previous Doom games. So it's like different and interesting and unique, while also seeming like a very appropriate and apt fit for the Doom franchise. So I really love that. They did confirm that it is a prequel to Doom 2016. So I guess if you care about the story, it technically goes Doom the Dark Ages, then Doom 2016, and then Doom Eternal. But yeah, so they show the trailer. The gameplay looks fucking awesome. It looks like more Doom. There's this one weapon where the ammo is, you put a fucking skull in like this crossbow looking weapon, and as he fires it crushes up the skull and shoots like shattered crystals of skull at the enemies like bullets, and it's fucking beautiful. And so it's just more of that amazing aesthetic, action-packed, fast-paced, nonsensical, beautiful, gory action that we've all come to know and love from the Doom franchise. So this game looks phenomenal. They did announce it for 2025 without any specifics. My guess is that they're going to try to get this game out earlier in the year, because I think that worked quite well for the last two Doom games, and I think they'd probably want to continue that, because Doom is a good franchise that has some pull, but you don't want to put that up against the heaviest hitters in the fall period of the year. So I feel like that May kind of window has really been ideal for Doom, and they'd be smart to try and go for it again. So that's not confirmed, but that's just my guess, is that that's what they're going to gun for. But they just confirmed 2025. But we will find out in January, because in January, when they do their next developer direct, where they pick like the 4 big games of the year to focus on, no doubt Doom the Dark Ages will be one of those games for next year, just like how this year they had Avowed and Indiana Jones, and last year they had Hi-Fi Rush and all that. So this will be one of those games for next January. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. Now, here's the really weird thing about this game I want to mention. Remember how the word was, oh, Doom is probably going to come to PlayStation. This is going to be one of those franchises where they're like, for games that have a history on other platforms, we're not going to try to take that away from you, blah, 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 blah. Back when they acquired Bethesda. Well, this is one of those games. And so the rumor was that Doom is going to come to PlayStation, regardless of the fact that they don't have to put it on PlayStation, because, Doom is a Bethesda game. Bethesda's owned by Xbox, whatever. So during the actual event, the actual showcase, at the end of the trailer, it says Day 1 Game Pass, and it says Xbox Series S and X, Xbox Game Pass, and PC or Steam or something like that. It shows the Steam logo. It does not mention PlayStation. Then you go to the Xbox Wire website, and in their write-up, it does not mention PlayStation. Then you go to the trailer for the game on YouTube from the Xbox YouTube account, and it says at the end of the trailer in the card, Xbox, Game Pass, Steam, and PS5. So the game is coming to PS5, but they hit it. So this is important to note because this is going to be how they announce these things going forward. And it's especially a little more obscure with games like Doom, where there wasn't this big Activision type acquisition with the FTC and the CMA and everything, where they had to go back and forth and make all these concessions for 2 years trying to acquire Bethesda. So like with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, they don't mention PlayStation in the trailer during the showcase, but you go to the Xbox Wire, you go to PlayStation's Twitter account, you go anywhere, and they're like, yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will come to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 on October 25th. No big deal. There's nothing vague about it. But you go to Doom, and they're pretty vague about it. It's really weird. So I just want to put that out there. Now, one other thing, speaking of Call of Duty, I want to keep in mind here is there is some verbiage that's really weird. And the reason why this is important is because Doom is Bethesda, Call of Duty, Activision. So with a Bethesda game like Doom, where there is no legal stipulation they had to make when they acquired Bethesda, it just says Doom: The Dark Ages arrives on Game Pass, Xbox Series X, and PC. Now, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 says, and this is directly from Xbox Wire, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 launches on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC on October 25th. Play it day one on select Game Pass plans. And then it says in parentheses, Game Pass Ultimate, Game Pass PC, and Game Pass Console. That is a direct quote from Xbox Wire. So this is really important. Doom is just a day one Game Pass game, full stop. Black Ops 6 is a day one Game Pass game for select platforms. Ultimate, Game Pass PC, okay, that makes sense. And then it says Game Pass Console. There is no Game Pass Console. It's Game Pass Core, and then it's Game Pass Ultimate, and it's Game Pass, it's Game Pass Core, Game Pass Console. Okay, so they're saying is if you have the one that just gives you access to internet and then a collection of games, but not. So that's basically what they're confirming there, is that if you get the tier Game Pass, which is just Core, which is the one that gives you access to online play along with a collection of occasionally rotating 20 to 30 games from the Game Pass library, that Black Ops 6 will not be included in that. But if you have just Game Pass Console, which is the one that lets you play the full library of Game Pass games but doesn't necessarily give you online access, then Black Ops 6 is included on that, but that doesn't give you access to online play. So if you want everything with Call of Duty, you got to get Game Pass Ultimate. So it's a little bit of a gray area the way they're wording that, and I wonder if that leaves the door open for later in the year for them to reveal plans to do a new Game Pass tier maybe, or to clarify that further. But I just think it's weird that they had to have specific verbiage for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 about how that's going to be on Game Pass, a game that we know that there was a lot of back and forth internally behind the scenes about whether or not it should go on Game Pass or how it should end up on Game Pass and all that. Whereas a game like Doom is just like, no stipulations, no strings, just it's going to Game Pass. So just want to put that out there. We don't really know exactly what all that means or how that's going to play into anything, but it's just curious that was a story that we know that behind the scenes there was some turmoil about how to handle Black Ops and Call of Duty support, or in a Game Pass support, and now we're seeing weird verbiage from Xbox directly in regards to how Call of Duty ends up on Game Pass. So I just want to throw that out there, and then Doom being a little funny with how it's coming to PlayStation and that wording on there as well. See, this is what's weird, Xbox. You buy all these teams, and then you have all these weird obligations in some instances to put your games on other platforms. In some instances, you don't have to, but now you got pressure from investors and higher-ups at Microsoft who want you to put games on their platform. It's weird. It's fucking weird. And you'll see this as just it's the reoccurring theme now with Bethesda and Activision, that things are just weird. But anytime we talk about an Xbox Game Studios game, it's all cut and clear. Unless they just decide to arbitrarily throw the game on PlayStation anyway, like they did with Sea of Thieves or Grounded or Hi-Fi Rush. So we'll leave that conversation here. I just want to, I want to point out that these things are worded weirdly and that these things are part of the conversation, something that has to be addressed. But keep it mostly focused on the great games that were announced today. So from Doom, so we start with a great opening. Black Ops 6 looks great. Then we get a great confirmation, technically a new announcement. It's not their fault, it leaked a little bit. Doom: The Dark Ages, another great game. All right, let's keep the momentum going because number 3, we got another great game here. We got State of Decay 3. So this was part of my list of games I'd really like to see an update on because we haven't heard anything from State of Decay in a couple years. And so I was starting to wonder. We know that there were some reports a while back about some behind the scenes issues with that game, with the development being a little funky. And then we got this trailer today, which helped alleviate a lot of those concerns. Although I would have liked some more gameplay footage in this trailer today. So they show the new logo for Undead Labs, and then they show the State of Decay logo. And then they get into the trailer, and the trailer's got lots of cinematic. You can tell a lot of money and effort has gone, since State of Decay 2 into trying to make State of Decay a very pretty game. They got Xbox money now, their first party team. They can make a more AAA looking and feeling game, and you can tell right off the bat that's what they're going for with State of Decay 3. And within the cinematic trailer, it looks like there is some moment-to-moment gameplay, but it's kind of like that Fable trailer we got last year, where it's like, it's kind of hard to tell, is that really gameplay? Does the game just look that pretty? Or is that a cutscene that's kind of like mimicking gameplay? Or like, what is that? It's a little gray. And this is thankfully the only example in this whole showcase where we really had one of these kinds of games where I couldn't really tell when I was seeing gameplay and when I was seeing cinematic. Thankfully, we don't have this issue reoccurring throughout the event. But this was the one game where I couldn't tell if I saw a little bit of gameplay or no gameplay at all, but I'm fairly certain we saw a little bit of gameplay because we saw some footage of one of the characters shooting a shotgun, and it looked very over-the-shoulder, moment-to-moment gameplay style. And we saw little snippets of things, so very much the game's running an engine here in this trailer, and we get a sense of what State of Decay 3 is. It looks way higher quality. It looks really impressive. Now, one of my expectations and hopes for this game was that we would see State of Decay become something that is more approachable and appealing to casual gamers, people that don't necessarily like the survival stuff. This was one of my 10 expectations and hopes for this week. So I just want to point that out there. And from this trailer, I don't feel like we got enough information to really make a judgment on whether or not that's the case, whether or not this game is going to be a little more hardcore like previous State of Decays, or if it's going to be pretty easy, just pick up and play and figure out, which was always my setback with State of Decay, was that I like the idea of the game on paper. The game looks cool and looks fun, but then I pick it up and I'm like, the permadeath and the resource management, the game doesn't do a really great job of holding your hand and telling you how to play the game and what you should be doing. It just lets you loose, and I don't really care for that. Also, it's very much multiplayer and cooperative centric, and that's not my thing either. So, like, what? And that was kind of my issue with State of Decay 2 in particular. And so I'm hoping State of Decay 3 becomes a little more linear, becomes a little more narrative focused, becomes a little more easy for casuals or newcomers or whatever. And it seems like in some ways that is the idea, because for a lot of these Xbox first party games, they do have extended interviews and details about these games on Xbox Wire. And I was skimming through the State of Decay interview they put up on Xbox Wire, and they were saying how they were trying to make the game more approachable in a way for solo players and for new players and things like that, to make that onboarding a little easier, while also very much making this game an evolution of the formula they already have. So they're very much doubling down on permadeath, resource management, cooperative play. And in fact, they say that they're working with Obsidian, the guys that make Avowed and Grounded, for their expertise in co-op, so they could get some advice and pointers and assistance on how to pull off that mechanic a little better in this game. And then they also talk about how they're working with the Coalition, the Gears of War developer, on their expertise on Unreal Engine 5 to make the game look and run prettier, so they can be a little more skilled and knowledgeable about how to make beautiful looking games. And I feel like you can pick up on both of those things a lot by just paying attention to this trailer. So I will definitely say, while I can't look at the trailer and know if this game is going to be more approachable for newcomers like myself, I do feel confident saying the game definitely looks like it's going for a more AAA look and feel, and that alone is pretty exciting, especially if you're already a State of Decay fan. So overall, I'm just happy to see this game. I'm happy to see that it's progressing. It looks like it's at that state in development where we probably get this game in the next 2 years. They did not put a date on this one. This is one of the few games that they did not try to put even a vague, like, 2025, 2026 date. My guess is they're gunning for 2026 on this, but hopefully this is a game that we get a lot sooner than later. But yeah, overall, it looks good. I'm not over the moon on this. This is one of the few games that is Xbox first party that I didn't put on my list of, like, this is just fucking fantastic. This game looks amazing. This is in my list of, I'm definitely going to check this game out when it comes out. I'm excited to give it a try. I hope it clicks with me this third time around. But there's no promises. The first two State of Decays were just not my thing. I want this franchise to be a thing for me, but I can't, we got to wait and see what it actually is. So far, good to see that the game's progressing along. I'm happy for fans of the series. It looks like the game is absolutely whatever the development issues it was the team was running into 2 years ago when those stories were happening. It seems like they've mostly overcome to an extent where the game is progressing and it is still on the way, and we are still going to get this game. So that is great to see. So that was State of Decay 3. No longer do we have to really worry, at least at this time, about this game being in some sort of development hell. So that's a good thing. Then next up, the fourth entry we got was Dragon Age Veilguard. So you would have already known about this if we did a podcast talking about all the news from Friday and Saturday. But Dragon Age Dreadwolf has been retitled Dragon Age Veilguard. I guess after years and years of this working title, they wanted to do something fresh because, I don't know, because why not at this point? Dragon Age Dreadwolf has been a name in a game that's basically been vaporware for so long. You might as well just have a fresh start and redo it all. So Veilguard is the new name. And at Xbox's showcase, they showed like the cinematic trailer introducing a bunch of these characters in the game, but not really showing much of the game itself. Well, the reason for that is because on Tuesday, June 11th, EA is going to host some kind of 15-minute reveal gameplay deep dive on this game where we're really going to see this game in action and get a sense for what it looks like, how it plays. And so, I don't know, from seeing what we saw here at the Xbox showcase, it was brief, there wasn't too much gameplay, but the only vibe I got was, from my limited experience with Dragon Age, watching my brother play Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Origins back in the day, and then playing like 2 or 3 hours of Dragon Age Inquisition before I put it down back in 2014, 2015, the only thing I could think of watching this trailer was like, this does not look like the Dragon Age I'm used to seeing. This is very aesthetically different looking from the Dragon Age I remember from a decade plus ago. So that was really the only reaction I had to this, but I'm really going to reserve any kind of judgment or impressions of this game until after we've seen proper gameplay and everything on Tuesday. So we can talk about this game a little bit more on next week's episode. For now, just going to leave it at that. Dragon Age Vanguard or Dreadwolf is now Veilguard, and yeah, it's coming out this fall, 2024. So, hey, this game's actually fucking happening. Good for BioWare. So next up, we get our, every year at Xbox's showcase, you always get that slew of Bethesda live service announcements like, oh, Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online. I wish they just did them all together, but they kind of spaced them out a little bit. So we got 2 of them here and then 1 later. So start out with what I would say easily is the most exciting of these 3 announcements, which was Starfield's Shattered Space expansion that we already knew the name of it. We already knew it was coming this year. Well, we got a trailer for it. So it's not at all what I was expecting aesthetically. It has a very like horror kind of Destiny look to it. But Starfield Shattered Space, we got a trailer, and Xbox Wire reads the following as kind of like the little back of the box explanation of what all this expansion is. It says, in addition to the first look at Shattered Space, I'm sorry. I didn't copy and paste that. So check out the trailer to see like tonally what it is. But in addition to Shattered Space and this trailer they showed for it, they announced, and this is from Xbox Wire, that in addition to the first look at the Shattered Space DLC, highlights from Starfield's latest major update were shared, and these updates are available now. So official mod support and launch for creators, and the first new DLC quests were introduced with the introduction of Trackers Alliance. New bounties, bounty hunting features, and improvements to melee weapons are all now available as part of this update that went live today. So that's all today, and then Shattered Space will be out later in the year. A little surprised they didn't put a date on this. If it's 2024 content, you'd think they would have something to say about it now. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to figure out the spacing, because right now Xbox has a pretty busy fall ahead of them, and we all know that big game publishers just fucking refuse to put video games out in June and July, and rarely in August, so I'm sure they're trying to figure out between September, October, and November where to put this DLC. So we'll have to wait and see, but I highly recommend you check out the trailer if you didn't see this. It looks beautiful. Very much excited to get back into the world of Starfield when this comes out. But yeah, they showed the expansion. I don't want to talk about it too much because obviously DLC expansions, those things aren't usually as fun as like getting into like the meat and potatoes of the show. So we'll just keep it at that. So after Starfield, we got our second of the 3 Bethesda live service obligatory kind of updates. That second one being Fallout 76. Now, of course, with the recent booming success of the Fallout TV show, this is probably a little more enticing to many, where they show the first map expansion and this new ability to play as a ghoul in this new not DLC, but this new, I guess, expansion, right? And it's called Skyline Valley. It's out pretty much now on June 12th. And then other updates will come out in 2025. So yeah, the description on Xbox Wire reads, seek out Vault 63 and uncover its mysteries. Learn about the truth about the electric ghouls that inhabit the vault and the enigmatic overseer Hugo Stolz. You'll chase storms in Skyline Valley's new public events, dangerous pastimes, and fight new region bosses. A monumental trifecta of Robo Brains. Skyline Valley comes out June 12th. So I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that because Fallout 76 is having a resurgence right now, and timing's good. It's good to have some Fallout news for them some new Fallout content for them to share and have out. So that's good to see. But again, we'll move quickly through these kinds of live service updates. Now, next up, this is a game that I think to some extent has technically been announced. I knew nothing about this game. To me, this is all new. This game looks fucking awesome, but it's called Claire Obscure Expedition 33. So this is from developer Sandfall Interactive, and it looks like a Western-made JRPG. So it's coming Game Pass day one Game Pass. Coming in 2025, so this is a game we can expect next year. It's a not second-party game, it's a third-party game, because it is coming to PlayStation as well. But it is day one Game Pass, so it has that Xbox marketing and that kind of exclusivity. Not exclusivity, but that kind of Game Pass allure to it. So this is the write-up from the Xbox Wire. Again, highly recommend you check out the trailer. If you like turn-based role-playing games, highly recommend you check out the trailer. This game looks especially interesting because it is a Western-style, European-developed, Japanese-style role-playing game. Turn-based, and yes, it doesn't take place in Japan in a high school as a teenager, and it's not some weird fucking Disney crossover Final Fantasy fetish fest. It's like a normal game that it's well, let me just read the Xbox Wire post. It says, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is an upcoming reactive turn-based RPG that will transport you to a beautiful, surrealist new world inspired by France's La Belle Époque. I don't know how you're supposed to say that. A period famous for its stunning and lavish contributions to the country's world-renowned culture of art. As members of the expeditioners who are embarking on an impossible quest to end the paintress, the cycle of death, you'll journey through the vast and beautiful fantasy world where you can battle deadly adversaries, befriend fabled creatures, and discover traces of who came before. So this is one of those games that's like definitely thanks to Game Pass. I will 100% download this game, give it a go. It looks stunning. I'm always looking for an excuse to care about a more traditional turn-based style RPG. And this game looks like one of those ones that has the potential to get its hooks in me, but it's always a little bit of a crapshoot for me with these kinds of games because I either love them, which is like the 10% option, or there's like the 90% option where I usually they just don't click with me and I just move on. But nonetheless, this game looks good enough that I will definitely be giving it a try. It has a very weird, obscure name, but visually it's just stunning looking, and I highly recommend if you're into these kinds of games, check this game out. It looks really, really cool, and it's the kind of stuff that we don't get enough of on Xbox, and we gotta celebrate it when we do get it, because it's just, if you want to see more RPG support, if you want to see more Japanese games and things of this ilk, you gotta support it when it's there. So that was Expedition 33. Then next, this is where we go from like, okay, we have a pretty good showcase so far, right? We open with 3 bangers. Then we get a good mix of things for everyone, some obligatory updates, and now we get into the territory of like my top 3 favorite games of the show. In fact, I don't know, this next one I'm flipping between it, but I think this might be my favorite game shown at this whole showcase, and it was one that was on my list of top 10 things I'm looking forward to getting updates on, and that was South of Midnight. So my not prediction, but my expectation for it on last week's episode was that this game can provide some much needed gameplay diversity for the Xbox platform. Something that's more all ages appropriate, something that's more lighthearted action adventure kind of platforming fun, something that's not gruelingly hard like a Souls-like or over the top mature and hardcore like a FPS or something like that. Just something to bring some variety, some fucking levity. It's like going to a buffet and you have pasta and pizza and pasta and pizza, and you love pasta and you love pizza, but goddamn, every now and then it'd be nice to have, I don't know, what else is good. Every now and then it'd be good to eat a taco, you know what I'm saying? So South of Midnight, here we go. It is they confirmed third-person action-adventure game, so not a Souls-like, not a roguelike, not a procedurally generated, none of that nonsense, none of that bullshit. I don't care how much you love Hades and Elden Ring and Metroid and all the games. No, it's a third-person action game. When you pick this game up, there will be a story. You will select the save profile. There will be an opening cinematic. You will play through levels, or you will progress through a linear story path. You will have abilities, and you will master the mechanics by playing over the course of the game. You will not be throwing your fucking controller at the wall because you didn't get good enough. You won't have to play through the same level 75 times as it changes mildly due to an algorithm behind the scenes of the game. None of that shit. It's a fucking video game. Remember these video games? We used to play them all throughout the 90s and early 2000s. South of Midnight is positioning itself to be what I would define as a fucking video game. So I'm hyped about this game right off the bat, because not only is it just a classic, great looking, well executed AAA third person action game, which we never get anymore, but the demo that they showed was phenomenal. So I know a lot of people are going to point out right off the bat, hey, why does this game look so rough? It looks like it's running like shit. No, this game is doing an artistic thing where it has like a Spider-Man Spider-Verse kind of 20 frame per second kind of choppy looking thing intentionally. The game's running fine. It's intentionally supposed to have like an artistic flair where it has a little bit of a frame rate, like it's not like stuttering frame rate. It is a lower frame, like a lower character frame rate. Like the world moves fine, but like your characters moving like a chop frame rate to make it to give it like a little flair and style. It looks great. Maybe for some people this will be a turnoff. To me, it looks great, along with its really, really, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like kind of like surreal picture book, kind of like Southern fantasy setting that it has. It's fucking weird as hell, but it's awesome. It's like you're in the Mississippi Delta, and you're in the fucking the alligators and the swamps and the frogs, and everything looks all mystical and crazy, and it's awesome. So because I can't speak and I have no ability to define things and explain what I'm seeing, let me just read straight from Xbox Wire, where the description for the demo says, "We met Hazel," that's the protagonist, "and her newly revealed companion, Catfish, as they travel through the flooded area in the Mississippi Delta and quickly find themselves facing down one of the game's monster kings. Meet Two-Toed Tom, a gigantic albino alligator and his powerful hunger, and even his own theme song. The trailer offers a look at the combat in the game's traversal, showing off Hazel's magical weaving powers, and gives us a taste of the game's darkly gorgeous deep southern setting." Much better put. This game looks phenomenal. I love it. So you're on like the back of your weird giant catfish companion, and they're like conversing with one another. And then like you hop off of him onto land, and you're just like, it's a third person action game. You jump down the ledge, you walk around the environment, you hop over a tree, you jump onto the ledge, you pull yourself up. There's double jump. It's got the buttons like a Mario game does. And then you come in contact with an enemy, and you can tell by the HUD, there's like the punching and the kicking, but you have your special abilities. I don't know. She has some kind of like fucking, Hazel has some kind of like, I don't know what kind of abilities these are, but something with, she's like controlling wind or some kind of energy, and she can like grapple onto things or hook things and like attack things. And it's like, okay, so she comes in contact with this little enemy, and she gets into a combat scenario. She doesn't have to dodge roll. She doesn't have to worry about her health and her DPS or any of that goddamn shit. Doesn't have to worry about her grinding of loots or anything like that. She just fights him with the abilities, and the enemy dies, and then it was fun. And then she continues traversing back up the cliff, down, and then she has this really cool ability where when she double jumps over a cliff, she can do like a little parasail type whatever thing, like the thing Link has in Zelda, where he can kind of soar and glide. So she's got her little glider, and it's fucking beautiful looking with the art style, and she's gliding through, and she's getting to like over the water to this church, and then she gets over to the church, and then the albino alligator, who looks all ridiculous and crazy and fun, pops out of the water and starts chasing her, and so she has to like power slide off the roof of the church and then jump onto her catfish friend and evade the alligator. And it's fun because it's got a cool art style and it's like a straightforward game, and you don't have to worry about seasonal content or making sure you subscribe to My Name is Biff in order to figure out what you missed the 45 days you didn't play the game. It's fucking great. It's classic. And God almighty, I wish we had more games like this. This game looks phenomenal. And I gotta be clear though, like silliness aside, like I don't have a lot of respect and love for Compulsion games. They've only put out 2 other games. I never played their first game. I always forget the name of it, which actually was a platformer, so I really should play it. And I did not like We Happy Few. I wanted to like We Happy Few because it demoed great at E3 that one year. But it had like that procedural roguelike nonsense that I don't give a shit about. So I put that game down real fast and never cared about it again. But this game, having the AAA budget, being able to staff up and make the game you want to make and just fuck off and do the thing, it looks like what they did with AAA Xbox money was made a really, really awesome third-person action game. I can't point to another game that's come out in the past 5-10 years that looks anything like this. And it's within a genre that is tried, true, and classic that we don't see nearly enough of anymore. And the game just looks fucking stunning. It has a really unique art style. It has really interesting looking characters. And I just cannot wait for South of Midnight. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that we got first-person Indiana Jones, and first-person Fallout, and first-person Starfield, and first-person Halo, and first-person Perfect Dark, and all these things. Like, I love first-person, I love shooters, I love M-rated games, I love guns in video games, not in real life. I love guns in video games, and I love all the things, right? But damn, it's really nice to have like a third-person action. And when I say third-person action adventure, I don't mean Ghost of Tsushima. I don't mean all the fucking games with the dead children like The Last of Us and Uncharted and the God of War. I'm talking about like E10, like rated E fucking 10. I'm talking about like a game your 9-year-old kid would come home and be like, I want to play South of Midnight. But a game that you as a 38-year-old man would also be like, fuck, I want to play South of Midnight. I'm talking about that shit. Like, let's bring back the OG Xbox, the GameCube era. Like, for love of Christ, this game looks phenomenal. I wish I were better with my words and that I could be a little more eloquently spoken and more articulate with how I feel just looking at this game. But watching this gameplay demo, South of Midnight is absolutely everything I hoped it would be based on what we were getting from the reports and the rumors and what we got off that tonal cinematic trailer last year. It's everything I wanted it to be, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to this game. Now, am I terrified for the future of Compulsion games when this game inevitably comes out, gets a 8.6 out of 10 Metacritic score, and then has moderate to low engagement on Game Pass because it doesn't have enough guns, sex, and violence? Yeah, I'm fucking terrified because these guys are going to get shut down and we're never going to get anything else from them again. That sucks. But for now, as the year 2024, I'm just going to look forward to this game because it looks really damn good. And it's planned, it's slated to come out next year. Of course, day one Game Pass, it is a first-party game. I love it. I love South of Midnight so much. I'm really, really looking forward to this game. And I just want to say, Compulsion Games, shout out to you guys. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for doing something different. For the love of fucking Christ, thank you. Thank you for not making this a gruelingly hard Vania game. Thank you so much that we can just... You guys remember, like, Ratchet and Clank? You guys remember, like, Jak and Daxter? You remember games like that? Like, I yearn for video games once more. All right, so that was South of Midnight. It made me feel young again and made life worth living. And then next we got the biggest blue ball announcement of all time. They showed, it was like Blizzard Entertainment. And I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be DLC for Diablo. And I was like, this doesn't look like Diablo. This looks like Warcraft. I'm like, huh, okay. Oh, you know what? It's World of Warcraft expansion for PC. But immediately, as soon as I said that to myself, my phone goes ding, and Cronky texts me and goes, please tell me they're bringing World of Warcraft to Xbox. Oh my God, please don't tell me this is just some like expansion PC announcement. I was like, oh, get yourself ready. This is going to be nothing you want it to be. And it was just a trailer for The War Within, which is the latest World of Warcraft expansion, which has been announced. We've known about for a long time. Comes out August 26th for PC only. No mention of console. And yeah, everyone was collectively blue-balled from that. So really nothing to talk about there. Just World of Warcraft getting a trailer because now Xbox owns them. So why not promote it? So that's really all that was. Not necessarily a bad thing, but not necessarily what people want either. Next up, they showed Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake or whatever again. I lost a lot of enthusiasm for this project after that Metal Gear Solid Classic Collection came out last year and disappointed everyone. So I don't know. To be fair, they showed extensive gameplay in this trailer. It looks very, very pretty. It looks like they're doing a great job with the remake. There's still no release date or release window on it, which I found a little silly, or not silly, but a little surprising. But they did confirm that on Tuesday, the 11th, Xbox is going to be hosting an extended gameplay demo of this game, which is, I found it weird. Of all third-party games, this is the one they would get access to do that for. So good for Xbox. I mean, I guess if you're trying to get some Japanese support, this is one way to do it while you shut down your only Japanese studio in the background. But hey, fuck it. Metal Gear Solid 3, Xbox marketing deal, not a bad get for Xbox. I can't feign excitement for this. I really don't want to support Konami with these remakes because, one, I already have access to these games via the 360 collection that I still have and haven't beaten. And then, two, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is. So I just don't want to lie. I don't want to feign excitement here and linger on it. So moving on. Next, they show a trailer, the obligatory. This is the next one of those seasonal live service updates. The obligatory Sea of Thieves trailer for season 13 on July 25th comes out. No mention of PlayStation, by the way, in this trailer, even though the game is now on PlayStation. I thought this one they did especially well because it was literally just like a minute and 20-second trailer, and then they moved right the fuck on. So they didn't waste their time at all with this one, and I really appreciate that. So we got an update for Sea of Thieves, and then we get to our next game that I think people are going to care about. We're getting really close to a game that I'm very excited about. But next game, again, I can't feign excitement for these kinds of things. I'm not trying to do the game a disservice by not talking about it extensively. It's just, this is a one-man podcast. I need to get a co-host on this show that's really into the kinds of games I don't play, just so we can be a more well-rounded podcast. But, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't give a shit about the Souls-like shit. So the next game they showed was Flintlock Siege of Dawn, which is a new game from the creators of Ashen. And they say in the trailer, brand new Souls-like game. Not only did this game look kind of generic to me, it just them coming out and bragging about the fact that it is a Souls-like game made my brain immediately make the connection that, okay, it's okay to shut off and disassociate now, and I can go do something else until this trailer ends. And so here's all that I can tell you. Day one Game Pass, which is, hey, good for Game Pass, more content. And it's out July 18th, 2024. Hey, I wish I was a Souls-like fan because it'd be great to get a new game I care about in the middle of July since no other games come out in the summer. So great release time window, great get for Game Pass. I'm just not going to sit here and pretend I care about this. So that was that. And then next up, here's something I don't care about that I'm more interested in than I am with that, which is Age of Mythology Untold. So this is from World's Edge, an Age of Mythology kind of greatest hits remake collection, master collection thing. Comes out September 4th, day one Game Pass, of course. And this is the first time a World's Edge RTS style game has come out day and date on console and PC, not just PC. So if you're an RTS fan, this is a great get for you as well. But again, it just, oh my god, the mythology, the Egyptians and the Romans and stuff. It's like I lose interest so fast with that stuff. But it's for someone, and it's a great get for someone. But what makes this show so great is it's like, even though I didn't care about Flintlock Siege or Age of Mythology, it's like immediately these trailers were like a minute and a half, on to the next thing. And within a few minutes, we went from all this stuff I did care about with South of Midnight to, boom, the next game I cared a lot about, which is our 14th item on the list, Perfect Dark, guys. It's happening. Perfect Dark is a real game. The bad news, still no release date or release window associated with it, but we saw extensive gameplay. Like this was a lot of gameplay, a lot more than I expected them to show. So this was exactly how I put it on my list of wishes for the show and expectations, is that we just get Perfect Dark gameplay, and oh boy did they deliver. So I'm really grateful for that. And I gotta say, Perfect Dark was nothing like what I expected, what we got with this gameplay, because my memory of Perfect Dark, keep in mind, I played Perfect Dark a little bit on the N64, but not enough to be like a fan and someone who's like knowledgeable on the game. I played the multiplayer basically a couple times, But I played Perfect Dark Zero on the Xbox 360. I probably beat that game twice. That was an OG Xbox 360 game that I played a lot because it was just one of those launch games. So, you end up playing a lot because you're excited about your new hardware, but you're a kid and you don't have the money for more video games. So you just play what you have. So I spent a pretty decent amount of time with Perfect Dark Zero on the 360. And while I know that people hate that game, I liked it at the time. I don't know that it holds up. I don't know that I would like it today, but I liked it a lot back then. And I remember it being very, very GoldenEye, very actiony, very set piece, first person shooter oriented. It was very much go into the room, grab the gun, shoot the enemies, clear the room, move on to the next room. Very espionage, like kind of badass action game like that. But that is not at all what this game is, which is actually kind of cool because what this game is something very unique and manages to be a narrative-driven AAA first-person technically shooter game that is very different from everything else in the genre. First of all, I just want to point out Mirror's Edge stealth. This game has a lot of like Dying Light, Mirror's Edge kind of parkour traversal. We're talking first-person perspective, running on the rooftop, jumping, grabbing a pipe, sliding down, hopping on over to the canopy of this little fucking bodega and jumping over through the window and scaling buildings. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. More of that. So that's amazing right off the bat. I did not expect to see anything like that. We saw lots of gameplay. So Joanne Dark, she's got her signature pistol that she's always got, but it looks like that might be the only firearm you can use in the game because she's using like her parkour melee skills to like grab enemies and like crack their necks and like flip them upside down, throw them on the ground and all this stuff. But like they have like shotguns and machine guns and she's not picking up their weapons. She's just got her pistol. And her pistol can shoot like regular bullets, but it can also shoot like zap darts, like electric darts. So it looks like it's going to have a couple types of different kinds of rounds that you can fire, which is pretty cool. Lots of gadgets. She's got like this one like scanner that she's carrying for like half the gameplay, so she can like scan nearby enemies, hack doors, disable like electric fields and things like that. So lots of like stealthy kind of like get your way around obstacle kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. Of course, day one Game Pass, it is a first-party Xbox game, but unfortunately, no date. They didn't even put a year on it. I was really hoping for like a vague 2025 on this. Nothing. So that tells me this is at least a 2026 game, unfortunately. But from what we saw with the gameplay, it was enough to where, again, like State of Decay 3, in fact, more so than State of Decay 3, I feel very confident that the game is now progressing and we are going to get this game, even though it had one hell of a tortured development cycle for those first few years there. So it looks really good. So shout out to the initiative, and of course, shout out to Crystal Dynamics, who are heavily assisting them in this game. It looks very good. Now, the graphics look good. They don't look bad at all, but they don't look quadruple A good. They don't look like, fuck. You know, like the first time you saw Horizon Zero Dawn or like, hell, just playing Hellblade 2 the other week. Like these kinds of games, it's not going to blow your mind like that. But I noticed the graphics are totally serviceable, but nothing like mind-blowing. Of course, it is a game in development. It's got probably another 2 years on it before we get our hands on it, so it could look quite different in a few years. But from what we saw today, the game looks like a lot of fun. It looks very unique. It looks like another thing to add a lot of flavor and diversity to the lineup of Xbox first-party games. But I wasn't necessarily blown away by the fidelity. Not that I care, because that was kind of what we were talking about with Hellblade 2, is I care a lot more about a game that is a lot of fun to play than I'd care about a game that just looks really, really pretty. So if the game is a super fun game, if I'm really intrigued by the story and it's a fun action-packed, like spy espionage, blockbuster, thriller type experience with really great gameplay, I don't give a shit if it looks like a fucking PlayStation 1 game. And that console had the ugliest fucking graphics I've ever seen in my life. As long as it's fun to play, that's all that matters. But just want to make the observation nonetheless, because it was something that stood out to me while I was seeing the trailer. So the game looks like something I would be all over. I really cannot wait to finally play this game. I appreciate Xbox's dedication to first-person style games. I think it's like where PlayStation kind of excels in like dominating the third-person single-player narrative-driven style game. Xbox has really leaned into doing much of the same thing, but for the first-person perspective, where we got all their Bethesda games they've acquired, and that's all first-person stuff from Fallout, Starfield, Skyrim, all the way to the game's machine games and id makes and all that, and then into the Xbox first party lineup with, of course, Halo and now the Initiative with Perfect Dark and stuff. It's just Xbox kind of dominates this first person perspective, especially for their campaign and story focused games, which I really appreciate that. I think that's pretty cool to have that kind of differentiation, and I'm all for it. So this is I consider this a win. I'm very excited to say, after many years of giving the Initiative shit, and for shitting all over this game, and for shitting all over Matt Booty, and for shitting all over Xbox, where's the gameplay? What's up with this? Is this just vaporware? Why did you announce this? You guys have royally fucked up the development and the production of this game. While some of that might be true, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as you get a really good game out the door, the game's going to speak for itself, and then people like me who are just talking heads have to shut the fuck up, because at the end of the day, the game is, the game's the substance. That's what we're here for. So I got to say, for the first time in a long time, I feel good about Perfect Dark. The game looks really good, and I'm very excited about it. So I really, really, really hope this game continues to progress smoothly and appropriately, and that we are able to get it hopefully by 2026. I would really love for that to be the case. So from Xbox Wire, this is their write-up, their little description of it, where they say, in the near future, Earth is struck by a series of global disasters, bringing ecosystems around the world to the verge of collapse. In an all-new Perfect Dark game, you experience the journey of Joanne Dark, Data Dine's elite agent, as, I don't remember that being the company or whatever, who cares, who gives a shit, as she hunts down the world's most wanted criminal, Daniel Carrington, to uncover the mysteries behind the technological breakthroughs that could threaten the lives of millions of people. The new trailer shows us Joanna's descent into the game's Cairo setting, offered us a glimpse into the mysteries behind the near-future ecological sci-fi story, and introduces us to a game that blends fluid traversal, gadgets, close-quarter combat, gunplay, stealth, and more to create an ultimate secret agent experience. Again, yeah, I think that's... And when they put it all together in words like that, it's like that gets me fucking psyched. I love the ecological near-future kind of setting. I think that's cool. It's a little dystopian while also being totally believable and kind of hitting close to home and being realistic and something we can buy into. And I love the idea of it being like fluid traversal, I'd say damn near parkour, with gadgets, close quarter combat, gunplay, stealth. When you mix it all together, it's fast, it's frenetic, it's fluid, but it's also slow, methodical, and very very varied. There's like a lot of different ways to approach gameplay in this game, which I really appreciate. So if you meld it all together and you have good flow, that's going to make this game have a lot of that stuff that makes games fun. When you have a lot of mechanics and they mesh well together, like you think about like a Sunset Overdrive style game or something like that, or like Tony Hawk games, where not necessarily the speed, but just the fact that there's so many things you can constantly be doing, ways you can interact. It's not just run, shoot, or like run, jump. It's run, slide, grab, pull up, hack, shoot, hide, peek, sneak around, hack, jump, slide, like all. That's fun. You got so many different mechanics. And listen, it's a way to make a game with a variety of mechanics and ways to interact with the game without making it obnoxious. You don't have to grind for loot. Joanna Dark doesn't have to grind for fucking loot. She doesn't have to dodge roll. She doesn't have to get her buffs up. She doesn't have to watch a lore video for 20 minutes to figure out what happened in season 4 because she was very busy with jury duty and getting her kid into college that she didn't have time to fucking play through all the content and now missed out and is totally lost on the story. I love it. It sounds like a fun video game. So yet again, South to Midnight, Perfect Dark, we have 2 examples of games I'm highly anticipating that are just awesome video games that will add a lot of diversity and brevity to the, not brevity, a breath of fresh air to the Game Pass and the Xbox catalog, which I'm just so excited about because God forbid we just get a fucking video game and not some, it's a roguelike. Did you say roguelite? No, I said roguelike. Fuck you. Thank you, Joanna Dark, for not being any of those things I just said. And thank you for parkouring, because God knows I miss Mirror's Edge so dearly, and we'll never get another one of those. So Perfect Dark looks, dare I say, perfect? No, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks really good, and I'm very excited for it. It is probably way over budget, and it took way too long to get to where we are today, which is still a failure on Xbox's management's part. But if the game is as fun to play as this trailer looks, then as the person not footing the bill, I don't give a shit. I can't wait to play this game. Hopefully the Initiative and everyone else involved are safe and that when this game comes out, it's a hit and gets a lot of attention, a lot of people buying, playing, engaging, subscribing, because I want to see games like this succeed. I'd really like to see a world where people can engage with fun video games again. All right, next up, number 15. We're only halfway through the showcase. Can you believe that? We got so at the end of that Perfect Dark demo, Matt Booty comes out again, just like with Phil Spencer. He comes out very briefly, and Phil Spencer, it's actually kind of genius the way they do this, because each executive kind of touches on their thing. So Phil Spencer comes out at the beginning, and he kind of, in a way, touches on acquisitions, the direction of these studios, and in their vision of creating great content for players, not taking things away, but adding to, and then just kind of goes, okay, Call of Duty, here's Doom. Same thing, Matt Booty, the guy who's in charge of running the studios at Xbox, very intentionally comes out right after we see a gameplay demonstration of a game that we've all been criticizing for years as vaporware. It's torn up behind the scenes, what's going on here. Very intentionally comes out after we see the first gameplay reveal of Perfect Dark to say, hey guys, we're really invested in these teams. We're really excited about the work that everyone does across Xbox Game Studios, Activision, Blizzard, King, whatever, and then kind of hands the baton over to say, speaking of which, I'm really excited about what we're working on over here in Blizzard with the Activision land, and says, here's a trailer for Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, the new expansion that comes out on October 8th. So we get the trailer for that. It's really just a cinematic cutscene. That's all it is, and it's completely unnecessary. So no gameplay, nothing important. It's a game that's already out. This is just one of those live service updates that they're obliged to show us. So we see a cinematic. As always, it looks very, very pretty, because everything Blizzard does looks very, very pretty. And then we move on from there. And from there, we, just like South of Midnight, just like Perfect Dark, we get into another first-party Xbox Game Studios game that we're all very much looking forward to, very much eager to get more information on. And here comes Fable, number 16. So the trailer is kind of in the spirit of the trailer we saw last summer, where similar layout, you got like some ex-Fable hero guy talking, giving kind of like just a commentary as it shows like snippets and vignettes of things happening in the world of Albion. So the difference is this time we see a lot more gameplay snippets, and it's a lot more decidedly gameplay. There's a lot less ambiguity about what we're looking at, if it's cinematic, if it's gameplay, and so we get a lot more of those snippets of gameplay. Unfortunately, like last year, we don't get any extended gameplay, so you don't really get to see much of anything happening, but you get enough snippets that you feel like, okay, I'm seeing stuff happen here. Like this is decidedly gameplay. So to that, I'll say this game, at least like aesthetically and visually, looks so freaking good. Like it is such a pretty looking game. The gameplay looks good. It looks like a role-playing game. You see him in town, you see him hacking and slashing, you see him traversing around the world. It's nothing like robust. Again, I wish we could see some extended gameplay, but from what we're seeing, it looks like something that looks fun to play, that I would like to get my hands on a controller and experience. And then they also confirm, hey, Eidos Montreal is indeed aiding Playground Games with the development of this game, so that's now confirmed, if it wasn't already. But let me read from Xbox Wire, where they write up the following. They says, what does it mean to be a hero? In last year's trailer, the question was answered by Dave, a gardener turned giant with the chip on his shoulder. This year, we were met with a darker take from Humphrey, played by British actor-comedian Matt King. Humphrey was once Albion's greatest hero, but his glory days are long gone. In Fable, Humphrey will be forced out of retirement when a mysterious figure from his past threatens the very existence of Albion. So I don't know if that's like the main quest line, or if that's just like another nod at like some of the adventures you can get into in the world of Fable, which it seems like that's kind of what they're going for, which is just teasing these little adventures throughout the world of Albion that you'll experience when playing Fable between last year's trailer and this year's trailer. And that's a fun approach. It's just that I feel like these are the kind of trailers you would want to get like every month leading up to a game's launch, and not like one a year for 5 years. So again, a little frustrating with like how long it's taking to get to here, but they are still confirming a 2025 release day or release year. So while there's no specific date, and that's fine this far out, it is good to know that this is locked for next year. Hopefully this game does not slip out. This is another one of those games. We'll see it in January during the next developer direct where they'll be like, here are 4 or 5 games we're really focused on that are coming in 2025, and Fable will be one of those games. So in January, you can expect to see a nice developer diary with lots of gameplay, and we'll get more of a deep look. And I assume at that time they'll at least say fall, spring, whatever. I assume Fable is going to be next fall's big game. Like, you want to get a big RPG style game out every year. Last year it was Starfield. This year it's Avowed. Next year it's Fable. I think that's kind of the cadence Xbox is going for, which is just fucking badass. We're going to be getting games like that pretty consistently from the Xbox brand. And God, Fable's one I think everyone's just so excited about because Fable is such a quintessential Xbox experience. You know, obviously it's not to the tier or to the extent of like Gears of War or Halo, but I think a lot of longtime fans of the Xbox brand look to Fable as something that even though it didn't have the kind of longevity or player base of a game like Halo or Gears of War, it did have a lot of prominence within fans of the brand, and it has that history where, you know, it's not like a game like Crackdown or Blinks or something where it's like, it kind of came and went, or like, we didn't really need more of this. It's more of a game that like absolutely deserved to be a franchise and continue onward. And to see Lionhead get shut down, to see the franchise kind of fizzle out after the 360 generation was a letdown to many. So I know so many of us are eager to see Fable come back and to see it be a relevant mainstream part of the Xbox brand again as it once was. I know there's just a lot of eagerness for that. So I can feel it. I know a lot of fans can feel it. There's just something really exciting about knowing that Fable is real. It's happening. We've seen it in action multiple times. It's coming next year. It's like we're fucking getting there. And it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that this game leaked for like 2 straight years before it was announced. But it just, at this point, it feels like we've been talking about this game for like a decade. It has been almost a decade, I think. I think we've been talking about this game for like 6 or 7 years at this point. So it's been a long while, and I'm just really excited to see it come to fruition. So Fable, looking great. It looks like the humor's there, the charm is there. Visually, the game looks fucking beautiful. I just want to see some more extended gameplay, and then, of course, I'm excited for next year. I'm excited for that to come. Now, I can wait patiently because, of course, I'm flipping my shit over Avowed. That's the game I'm most excited for this year. But, oh, man, think about it. Next year at the Developer Direct, we're going to have Fable. We're going to have South of Midnight. Those two, oh, my. 2025 is already shaping up to be a great year for Xbox. So then our next game, number 17, Fragpunk. So this is a world premiere. I forget the name of the developer. I didn't fill in the blanks here because I try to get most of these notes filled in before I hit record, but a couple things I missed here. Fragpunk, it is a world premiere, new first-person shooting card battle game. They really just described it as that 5v4 or 5v5 hero shooter. I don't know how I feel about this game because it didn't like insult me the way a lot of these like Fortnite-looking knockoff multiplayer games do. It looks genuine and it looks kind of fun. And at the end of the day, all that matters is like, is the gameplay good? So I'm not like against this game. It's just that these kinds of like free to play hero shooters and stuff they're so like dime a dozen at this point that it's like, I can't feign excitement for it. The game looks good. Like, to me, it actually looks more interesting. Like the art style and everything, and the maps and the weapons and stuff looks more cool to me than a game like Valorant does. But it doesn't look like something I need to stop what I'm doing and go play when I can already, comfortably stay addicted to the shooters I already play, like Call of Duty and Halo and stuff like that. So it's like I just don't know that I need another one of these. But it is coming next year to Xbox and PC in 2025, and it looks like it's a decent marketing get for Xbox. So we'll see how it goes. You never know with these kinds of games, because that's the thing, is like they all look kind of shitty until they're not, right? We make fun of all these games, and then one of them comes out and it kind of sticks. It's like, oh, look at that, the finals is actually really fucking good. Who knows, that new one that Sony has coming out that looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff, like, who knows, maybe that game's fucking awesome, maybe it works, I don't know. We never really know until these games come out. So Fragpunk, it looks fine. It's squad based, it's 5v5 shooter, it's hero based, it's got a card power up system. It sounds busy, it sounds like it's got a lot they're trying to throw in there to make the game stand apart, which I appreciate them at least trying to stand apart and do something different. But again, it's just, I don't know, we'll see how that plays out. I've definitely seen worse games in this genre in attempts at these kinds of games than this. Like it looks better than some of the other ones. We'll put it at that. And then we'll move on to number 18, Winterboro. This was probably I was actually very like this announcement was one of the ones that made me the most appreciative of this showcase overall, because I feel like usually in these kinds of events we get a lot of these kinds of games. These like little Steam Game Pass style, like 2D storybook little games, little indie games where it's like, oh, it's a roguelike. Oh, it's got inspiration from Pokemon and Metroid and Xenoverse and all this stuff, and it's like you walk around, it's got story, and it's got lore, and it's cutesy, and it looks like a team of 8 people made it. And I don't mean to like knock these kinds of games, because there's room for everything and people like these kinds of games, but like I feel like normally we get one too many of these games per showcase, and this was the only game that really fit this bill or fit that description in this whole showcase, making it, one, kind of stand out as something special and fresh among all the other games, and two, made me really appreciate how many like big high profile games they had at this showcase. Like they just had a lot to talk about. But the game doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's a little storybook, kind of cute indie game where you play as a mouse. It's from developer Noodle Cake. Coming out next year. It is a day one Game Pass game. They're planning for an early 2025 release, so probably Q1 or spring at the latest kind of deal. So looks cute, looks fun. It's just, again, in an attempt to just be as honest and transparent as possible, this game did nothing for me personally, and so I just can't feign any kind of enthusiasm or excitement for it. But the next game they showed, we're sticking with the indies. The next game they showed actually is one of my favorite games they showed at the event. Like I'm highly excited about this next game that they showed, which is from Annapurna Interactive, who, to no surprise, they seem to have an eye for really good stuff. Annapurna Interactive, newly revealed game, day one Game Pass 2025 release, Mixtape. So Mixtape is what I wrote here. My impressions is teens in the summer, 80s, but not necessarily, coming of age, love letter to all the big 80s teen movies, Ferris Bueller Day Off, kind of seize the moment kind of stuff. And I love that. I love that feeling. I love that vibe. I love that setting. So this, to me, really works. But let me read the actual write-up from Xbox Wire, and I think it will give you much better concept of what was shown. And I highly recommend you check out the trailer. I think this game looks very unique, very exciting. I love the trailer they did because it was very much like trying to be like a movie trailer from a movie like that. Like they had like the narrator and everything. But Xbox Wire writes, from Beethoven and Dinosaur, award-winning developers of The Artful Escape, comes Mixtape. On their last night of high school, 3 friends embark on one more adventure together. En route to their final party together, a perfectly curated playlist draws them into a dreamlike reenactments of their formative memories together. Immerse yourself in the teenage wasteland, playing through a variety of narrative vignettes, exploring the pivotal moments that shape them. The story is delivered through a mixtape of comedic, joyful gameplay, from skateboarding to flying and taking photos after hours at an abandoned theme park, and much more. It's the greatest hits of teenage friendship, from the first kiss to the last dance. Similar to games like What Remains of Edith Finch, Mixtape ties its narrative to a unique vignette-driven structure that emphasizes variety, surprise, and comedy in its gameplay. Featuring music from Devo, Roxy Music, Lush, Smashing Pumpkins, Iggy Pop, Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, and more, Mixtape effectively blends gameplay, narrative, and music. Join the crew on their last night together as they experience a mixtape of memories set to the soundtrack of a generation. I feel like I'm such a hypocrite because I always look for an excuse to like point and laugh at something that I arbitrarily deem as like hipster shit. But this is that to a T, and oh boy, does this work for me. Like this shit hits. This is the kind of stuff where like if I were an indie game developer, this would be like the kind of game I would strive to come up with. Like this is. Yeah, this is that hipster pretentious douchebag shit. Like not the game itself is that, but like me, I would be the pretentious hipster douchebag who would just eat this shit up and act like I'm better than you because I have an eye for stuff like this. Like this kind of game really fucking does it for me. So I don't know, Mixtape. It was just announced today for the first time. This is shooting way up to the top of games I'm really looking forward to next year. So I'm not going to put this on my list of ultra hype games. I'm not going to put this on the list of like big Xbox releases for 2025 because I kept that just for first party games just to make a point later on the show. But I did add this game to my list of games that I am personally like ultra hype about for next year, like games that I'm really looking forward to that were shown at this event. So we'll get into that at the end of the thing if that doesn't make sense now, but it doesn't matter. Mixtape looks beautiful. I love the art style. I highly recommend. I know I've said it already a bunch of times throughout the show, but I highly recommend you check out the trailer for this. It's very unique, and even if it ends up not being your kind of game, I just think that this trailer is worth a watch just to admire, like, oh, that's a really different kind of game. Like, what was that game like 2 or 3 years ago? It was called like 23 Seconds or whatever, and it was that indie game where like every like minute or whatever you had like the room would change, and it was like a 7-hour game about like this like butterfly effect, and you had to keep playing through the same event over and over and over again, and every time something very minor would change, and it unfolded into like some grand event. Like that was a game, I forget, I think it had like Willem Dafoe or some shit in it. I don't know. That was a game that was like absolutely not for me. Had no interest in playing it, but I really appreciated it based on just the trailer alone, because I could tell it was something very unique and very different. Similar in that vein, this game has that kind of going for it, where it's like there aren't many games you can point to that kind of look and feel and do what this game's doing. Maybe a lot of movies that do that, but games, no. And it's very unique from that perspective, and I really admire it. So, yeah, Mixtape, hell yeah. I'm definitely eating that shit up when it comes out next year. Next up, we got our obligatory Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 trailer. Comes out November 19th, day one Game Pass, of course. We're not going to talk about it beyond that because, again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I give a shit about Flight Sim, although it's cool that it exists and good for those who are looking forward to it. Next up, this is our last, number 21, this is our last live service update that they did, which is Elder Scrolls Online. I thought this was a fun trailer they did. I forget what song they used, but they used a popular licensed song in the trailer. They just showed a bunch of montage of cool things you can do in the game to celebrate 10 years of Elder Scrolls Online, which makes me kind of scared and sad to think that this game's 10 years old now. But the update's called Golden Road or Gold Road, and it's out June 18th, so in just a little bit here. And for a limited time to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the game, all DLC will be free. I don't know when that ends, but it's for a limited time. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in Elder Scrolls Online. With all due respect, let's move right on. All right, so I'm back. I guess to you it sounds like we're just moving right along, but I just lost power in the middle of recording about 2.5 hours ago and thought I had lost everything I had recorded, so I almost had an aneurysm there, but thankfully the power came back on. Duke Energy texted me and they said, power is out. Estimated time of reactivation, midnight. I was like, oh, okay, so I just have no power for the rest of the day. But thankfully, power was only out for 2.5 hours, and Audacity, shout out to Audacity, recovered my whole file, so I didn't lose 2 hours or an hour and a half of podcast recording. So, hey, feeling pretty grateful right now. All right, moving right along. So where are we at? 22. The next game they showed, another world premiere, Life is Strange Double Exposure. So this is from developer Deck 9, publisher Square Enix. You'll remember Life is Strange was created by Don't Nod, but I guess Deck 9's really taken over the franchise sense because Don't Nod really kind of dropped it after Life is Strange 2. But this one's really interesting because Life is Strange Double Exposure, we're returning back to Max Caulfield, the original character from the first Life is Strange game. So this is pretty exciting in that regard. So coming out October 29th, 2024, the Xbox Wire post reads the following, quote, Life is Strange Double Exposure isn't just a return for the beloved narrative adventure series, but a return from the original star, Max Caulfield. Several years after we guided her through Arcadia Bay, Double Exposure sees Max return later in life, now an artist in residence at the prestigious Calden University. Unfortunately, Calamity is never far away. Max's friend Safi is killed and will be plunged into a full-on murder mystery with a supernatural twist. Max's original power to rewind time has morphed into an ability to entirely shift timelines, and we'll be exploring two parallel realities, one in which Safi is safe, and as well as another where we're in the wake of her death. In order to discover the identity of her killer, you explore both. Life is Strange Double Exposure arrives on October 29th, and for those who pre-order the Ultimate Edition, it'll be playable. The first 2 chapters will be playable October 15th. I believe they're going to follow the cadence that they've done with the more recent games where like you buy the game one time, like $50-$60, and it comes with all 5 chapters at once. It's not like they release one chapter at a time every 2 to 3 months like they used to do. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. I think, well, I'm assuming what that means is the game comes with all 5 or 6 chapters complete, ready to go. But if you pre-order the deluxe edition, you get to experience the first 2 chapters a couple weeks early. So that's a cool little pre-order bonus. But aside from that, this is this was not announced as a Game Pass title, but obviously Life is Strange has had a long history of being marketed alongside Game Pass, and generally these games tend to end up in Game Pass after a while anyway. So I'm not saying don't buy the game, but historically speaking, these games do go into Game Pass at some point. So take that for what you will. But it's exciting to see this series go back to Max Caulfield. I actually remember. I loved the first Life is Strange. I know it gets a lot of like memeing and a lot of crap for its really cringy writing, which it is really cringy. The writing's actually quite terrible, but despite that, it still manages to be an endearing story, and I really appreciate that first one. Some of the other ones are okay, of varying quality, but it's cool to see that we're going back to the original cast. I think I might have to check this one out just because I have that emotional attachment to the first game. But yeah, it's different. It takes years. It takes place like 7 years later, so Max looks older and everything's different. And of course, your friend from the first game is now no longer alive, so it's a new cast you're doing shit with. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Kind of an unnecessary character to tap back into, but yeah, whatever. Where there's money, there's a will, or wherever there's a will to make money, there's a video game. I don't know how the saying goes, but anyway, I'm curiously optimistic. They've done a pretty good job with these. Aside from Life is Strange 2, I've liked pretty much every entry, and Deck 9 seems to kind of do a better job of these games than Don't Nod did anyway, so I have faith that they'll put together something pretty good here. Next up, number 23, so we get back into a big benchmark game again. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So I was a little surprised with the way they chose to show this game. Now, I guess it worked because I still walked away going, holy shit, that's so good. Because I think what this showing did was prove that the people in charge of this game, Machine Games, they absolutely understand how to capture the spirit of Indiana Jones. You might even say better than some of these later movies have done. Although I'm not a hater of the newer Indiana Jones movies. I think they're all actually pretty good, and people overreact about some of them. But anyway, the showing it was great. It was mostly cinematic was my problem. Everything was running an engine. It was all part of the game. They did show gameplay. Some of it was redundant from what we saw back in January, but I expected an extended gameplay demo, especially because this game is scheduled to come out this year. But what we got was an extended cutscene. Well, in-game cutscene, but nonetheless, it was story moments. It wasn't gameplay. I'm not entirely against them doing that because this game is going to be very narrative focused and because the whole thing ran an engine, because we know what a Machine Game first person shooter is going to be like. So even though I don't expect this game to play like Wolfenstein, I expect it to feel and handle kind of like Wolfenstein, but with more, melee combat and whip and exploration and less dual wielding machine guns and blowing up Nazis and stuff like that. So I don't know. I have a pretty good feeling of idea of what this game is going to play like, and they have shown adequate gameplay, although not as much as I feel like they could. But that aside, the story sequence they chose to show was about, I don't know, like a 2.5 minute moment in the game, and I remember feeling at a certain point I was like, wait, why am I watching this? I feel like I'm spoiling the game for myself, because I got like really engrossed in actually the cutscene they were showing, and I was like, this feels exactly like an Indiana Jones movie. Like, it's like they're just absolutely nailing it. The whole like Indy gets caught by the bad guy is doing his like long little monologue, and Indy's partner, who has a different like female companion in every movie, has like the MacGuffin, and she's like, wait, don't hurt him and I'll give you the thing. And then they're like, oh, you're gonna give us the thing? Yes, come over, surrender the object and we won't kill your boyfriend. And then she like accidentally, like, she tricks them, puts a grenade in their hands, and then it becomes that kind of like comic mischief almost kind of violence that you get in Indiana Jones, and they're like tossing the hand grenade like hot potato, and the enemy falls off the cliff with it, and they escape the clutches of evil and stuff. It just felt so much like a scene from an Indiana Jones movie I've seen before. I'm like, god damn, they totally understand. And in the way they got Troy Baker's voice and the mocap for whoever's mocapping the Harrison Ford lookalike guy, like it feels so on the nose, just like that latest Indiana Jones movie, where the first 20 minutes of it, they kind of like de-age Harrison Ford to make him look like 35-year-old Harrison Ford or whatever. It kind of feels the same thing here, but it's more fitting because it's a video game, so you expect it to look fake, and not like a real live action movie. So I don't know. I feel like they've totally nailed the tone, the writing, the mannerisms, the behavior, the voice, and everything. It feels very authentically Indiana Jones, and that has me very excited because I already know Machine Games makes really wonderful first-person adventure games that I love quite a lot, and I like Indiana Jones, and it seems like they really understand Indiana Jones. And tell me this is a 10-hour single-player story-driven game, and I'll be happy as a pig in shit, with this game. So I'm very much looking forward to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I think it's going to be a bona fide hit. It's not Star Wars, so it's not going to get like Star Wars level of attention and love. And it's an Xbox first party game, so I'm assuming it's going to get the Indiana Jones lesser level of Lucasfilm attention plus the Xbox like Metacritic ding. So I expect this game will be able to easily clear somewhere in like the low to mid 8 range, which is pretty great. But I have no doubt that it will be at the very least a really good game. So feeling really good about that one. Still no specific release date yet. That's the thing, is they're saying it's 2024. The thing was with this and Avowed, they're still saying 2024 with no firm date. What's the reason? What's the excuse at this point? We're halfway through the year. We all assumed these games would be coming out later in the year. And in fact, I think the rumor has been that Indiana Jones is going to be a December release. And that's all well and good. Whatever. Do what you got to do. We know Call of Duty's in late October. So if you could get Avowed November, India in December, that's great. But like, we're halfway through the year and there's no firm dates on these games. If we make it to September and both these games still don't have dates, it's like, okay, something's getting delayed. And I have a feeling, I'm not excited about it. I'm not like so proud to say it, but I just have a gut feeling that between Avowed and Indiana Jones, one of these two games is getting delayed into 2025. And if so, hopefully it's early 2025 and not like one of those Starfield things where it's like delayed by a full year. But we'll just have to wait and see. For now, 2024, I'll take them at their word. The game looks great. I'm really excited for it. Next up, Mecha Break. This is number 24. Basically, I just wrote Transformers, Mech Gundams, things. Looks badass. 2025. That's all I wrote. But here's what Xbox Wire wrote, which will give you a better idea of what we're looking at here. Mecha Break is a multiplayer mech-based shooter that allows players to choose from a variety of mechs, customize their appearances, battle colossal war machines on treacherous terrain. Prepare for an adrenaline-pumping battle, lightning-fast maneuvers, and explosive firepower. Mecha Break's Xbox closed beta will be on Series X in August, and then the game will be available to all in 2025. Mecha Break features customizable mechs, player-created mech pilots, and a wide array of mech and weapon types. Oh, and 3 distinct game modes, a 6v6 battle mode, 3v3 arena, and 60-player PvEVP mode to put players in the pilot seat and to create the ultimate mech showdown experience. Discover an array of attackers, brawlers, defenders, snipers, support mechs, and even unique playstyles and tools. There's an upcoming closed beta in August, which we already mentioned. But yeah, this game, I forget what it's called, the name of the developer. It's like something Square or something, not Square Enix, but it's like something Season. I've never heard of them before. I should have done some research on them, so I don't recognize these guys at all. Don't know where this developer comes from, but this game looks fucking badass. Not the kind of game I would like flip out and put on like my most anticipated games of the year kind of list, but like the kind of game where it's like, hey, if this is some kind of like free to play multiplayer game or some kind of low cost to entry multiplayer game, it looks like a good time. I love the idea of mechs in games. I just feel like very few mech games have been something that have spoken to me. And this seems like it's within the realm. And while we wait for that new AAA Transformers game to get a little further along in development, I think this is a game that I'll have to keep an eye on as something to hold me over and something to complement and satiate my need for more Transformers-like media, because I love Transformers. We don't get enough Transformers, and we don't get enough good Transformers. So I'll have to take my mech media wherever I can get it. Looks very Japanese. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's a Tencent game. I could be wrong. All right, number 25. Speaking of things that I don't know and I don't care, this is actually the last game they showed the entire event that I just literally just eye roll skip. I don't care, and it is a Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. This is a day one Game Pass game coming out in 2025. This seems very much like, hey, we want to make Bloodborne or something like that. This is a Souls-like action RPG launching day one on Series X and S and Game Pass. Immerses players in the dark late Ming Dynasty period of life with warring factions and mysterious illness turning humans into monstrous creatures. That's the quote from the Xbox Wire. Now, I'm not trying to be offensive or ignorant here. I cannot remember if this is one of the Souls-like games that takes place in like ancient Chinese, Japanese historical period. I can't tell if this is one of the ones that was already announced in the past 2 years, because I know in the past 24 months we've gotten about 6,000 of these games announced. I can't tell if this is one of the ones that was already announced, but a new trailer for it, or if this is a new one altogether, and I cannot be bothered to look it up. Not necessarily because the setting's boring, although I do think the setting's a little overplayed at this point, or at least recently. It's like historically we haven't had a lot of these games, but in the past very few years we've had a shit ton of these games. It's Souls-like. I don't need to explain myself. You guys are tired of me saying it at this point. It's Souls-like, so not for me, but obviously a great get for Game Pass. They're probably trying to chase that Bloodborne, Demon Souls kind of success that PlayStation gets to enjoy, and so this is a good get for them and for Game Pass. So it's good. It rounds out the portfolio. It's good for everyone. Nothing to complain about. So we're good there. All right, next up we go from one of the least interesting games of the showcase to my number one most anticipated game of the year. Not my favorite game shown at the showcase, I should say, this game did not have, in my opinion, the best showing of every game in the showcase, but it is the game within the showcase that is my most anticipated game overall / game I'm just really most looking forward to getting my hands on, which is Avowed, still tagged for a 2024 release date. Day one Game Pass, of course. It's a first-party game. No firm date. Xbox will host an extended gameplay demo on this game on Monday, the 10th. So the day this podcast goes live, they'll be doing some kind of extended gameplay demo, which I'm very much looking forward to watching 3 times in a row to just digest repeatedly, because I'm very excited. This is one of those few games where it's like I want to consume as much news and information and video and shit about this game before it comes out as possible. Most games I play, it's like I see a couple trailers, I'm good, I'll tap out, I'll just wait, I want to play it. Avowed's one of those rare games where it's like I just every gameplay, every demo, everything that comes out, I want to see it all. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Until then, though, I have really not much to say, because even though the trailer they showed was gameplay focused, a good mix, I'd say half and half, like it's like half story trailer, half gameplay. And even though it was a decent enough length, it was just quick succession of like gameplay vignettes, and I feel like it was one of the less revealing showings we've seen of this game, compared to the past 2 or 3 times we've seen it. So I feel like I didn't get a whole lot out of this trailer. It was a quick one. It was like a minute and 20 seconds, in and out, Avowed, So there's not really much to say. I'm going to kind of hold my commentary until next week's podcast, because then we'll have had the extended gameplay demo and we'll be able to talk about it more at length. But again, we're halfway through the year. It's a 2024 game. Where's the release date? So I'm hoping that they can get this one out for November. I think November will be just perfect for this game. Because you think if they can get that Starfield DLC in September, that's a great time to play that RPG. October, we got plenty of Call of Duty. Plus Sonic comes out. Oh my god, I think Sonic and Call of Duty come out the same day. What the hell am I going to do? And then, get Avowed in November, Indie in December. And then that's just like the big heavy hitters. And there's all the other games that come out this year I got to fit in there somewhere. So, all right, that's another can of worms to deal with. But Avowed, looking good as always. Very, very excited for this game. And we move on to number 27, which is one of the biggest surprises of the show. Definitely one of the highlights. This was a brand new reveal, world premiere. Rebellion, developer Rebellion, the guys behind the Zombie Army trilogy and the Sniper Elite series. Okay, so already esteemed developer, someone that is highly regarded and who has been getting more and more AAA and more capable of creating great games over the years. Announced their latest project. It's a brand new IP, brand new game. Welcome to see that. Atomfall. It's called Atomfall. It's coming out in 2025. No firm date, but 2025 is the year. And it's a day one Game Pass game. And it looks fucking awesome. I wrote, based on my knee-jerk reaction, that looks like a supernatural horror action game. Beautiful. That's what I wrote. Here's what Xbox Wire wrote. They said, quote, set in the rolling British countryside with idyllic pubs, quaint villages, and red phone boxes, it soon becomes clear that things are far from normal. Created by Rebellion, the makers of the much-beloved Sniper Elite and Zombie Army trilogies, or Zombie Army franchise, Adamfall is inspired by a real-world nuclear disaster that occurred in northern England in 1957. The game follows a fictional storyline where you find yourself in quarantine zone for 5 years after the event. Explore the countryside, villages, and settlements, and meet odd people, wicked cults, rogue government agencies, and other along the way. Explore the open-world adventure and seek the truth at your own pace. A single-player survival action game, Adamfall blends post-war Britain and Cold War paranoia, folk horror, and elements of classic British sci-fi to create an immersive and thrilling gameplay experience. The game will launch in 2025, comes to Game Pass day one, and will also be available for Xbox Series S, X, Xbox One, and PC. That sounds like a fucking beautiful game. And check out the trailer on this one as well, because it is stunning. It is, It really captures that idyllic British countryside thing mixed with this kind of like paranormal, supernatural kind of weird nuclear fallout thing. And it's like this perfect blend of like, I don't want to say because I don't want to sound like a fucking idiot. But even though this game looks nothing like Atomic Heart, and I'm not comparing this game to Atomic Heart, there is something about this game where it scratches a very similar itch in my brain where I'm like, this is going to be the Atomic Heart of 2025 for me, if that makes sense. This game looks just absolute kick-ass, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. This is a great second-party get for Xbox, or probably actually, this is probably a third-party game, because I'd be shocked if they're not actually putting this thing on PlayStation as well. I did not confirm that, but I mean, it looks amazing. You got fucking robots and weird supernatural energies appearing in this beautiful, idyllic, historical-looking British countryside, and then in addition to all that, when you go underground and stuff like that, you got all these weird cult-like things and these weird ghoul-like creatures that are glowing with radiation. But the combat itself is very like slow, stealthy, and then there's some action. There's like a scene where the player's got like a Type 100s from a first-person perspective, and then you got like lots of exploration moments. The gameplay looks like it's not very speedy or fast. Like it's kind of survival and horror, but not in terms of like an equipment in a resource management way, more like a slow, somewhat linear, but exploration heavy kind of, adventure game. And I want to follow that. I want something like that. Something like, kind of like a BioShock, kind of like, what's the, I don't know why I always struggle with this genre, because I always reject the name of it. The something sim, the immersive sim genre. I don't know why, I don't know why I reject that name so much, but anyway, it kind of looks like it fits that mold, and those are some of my favorite kinds of games, and I'm all for it. So Adamfall, shout out to Rebellion. It looks like you guys keep getting better and better with every game you make, and I am very excited to play that next year. So that is number 27, and then we get into the last stretch. So here are our last few announcements. Number 28, this is the last one that's, whatever. It looks good. Assassin's Creed Shadows. The thing is, there's not much to say here because this is much like how Summer Game Fest had a little tease of Star Wars. It's like, it's just a taste of it, and then Ubisoft is going to go into it more in depth on Monday during their Ubisoft Forward event. So it was shown here, and it was cool. Actually, I think the Xbox Showcase got really the most gameplay reveal of any of these Assassin's Creed Shadows showing so far. So the game looks good. It looks like the game that everyone wanted Assassin's Creed to be for a long time, and I think it's a little too late at this point, just because of how congested this like I don't know, this old Japanese Chinese like aesthetic, like samurai fucking third person action thing has gone on for it. But I think it's going to be different. Maybe there's a little bit of an exception to the rule when it's a franchise that is as huge and ubiquitous as Assassin's Creed. So I'm sure they'll do fine. I'm sure this will be probably one of the more popular Assassin's Creed games. It does look good. I'm getting to see that. I know there's like the male and the female protagonist. The female protagonist looks pretty fucking cool. Her action scenes and everything in the game, in the gameplay trailer looked pretty badass. But again, it's like, I have this with Assassin's Creed once every so many entries. It's like, oh, Assassin's Creed 3, that one actually looks pretty good. Maybe I'll try it. No, I'm not going to try it. So I feel like this is kind of fall into the Black Flag Assassin's Creed 3 territory of like, I admire it. It looks good, but I'm definitely not going to play it. But it does look good. November 15th, you know what to do. I'm sure plenty of you guys care about this because Assassin's Creed's a huge franchise. Next up, number 29. We get right back to my beautiful, awesome European games, although I guess Assassin's Creed is kind of European. Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. I mean, this is it. This is like the final wrap-up showing before the game comes out. September 5th, day one Game Pass. It's been a long time coming. This has been one of those games that we've been talking about since the Xbox Series X was announced. And obviously, for really unfortunate and sad real world reasons, this game has been delayed quite heavily, but it's finally coming. So shout out to the team for getting this one out the door. It looks great. Just the latest trailer, not really much to say about it at this point. I really want to get to that Stalker collection before this comes out, but God knows if I'll be able to do that. We'll see. September 5th, really good release date. Early September. You're getting there right before things really start to kick off. I think it's kind of a sweet spot for that release date. So hopefully that game does well. I want to see that team succeed and do great things. But after that trailer, Sarah Bond comes out. So we had a little bit of Matt Booty, we had a little bit of Phil Spencer before that, and now we get our third and final executive appearance. And just like with the other two, Sarah Bond keeps it short, sweet, and she uses her presence to kind of do a brief, light, affirmative little statement regarding her control over the business, her part of the business. So Phil talks about acquisitions in the business overall. Matt Booty talks about relationships with their development teams and getting games out the door and being committed to their studios. And then Sarah Bond, who's in charge of, the Xbox hardware and all of that, she touches on that. So she comes out and says, "Hey guys, just so you know," as we begin to wrap up the showcase, and she announces news item number 30. She says, "We have a new Xbox Series X and a new Xbox Series S and another Xbox Series X that are all coming out this holiday in select markets." And we'll get into that in a second. And then she goes, in addition to that, we're the brand that's all about gaming preservation. We're the gaming brand that's all about pushing the power of gaming hardware and having the most powerful consoles. And we're the gaming brand that's and we're currently focused on our plans for the future, and we're working on the next generation of Xbox hardware. So basically just kind of doing the same thing Phil and Matt Booty did, where it's like, without saying like, hey, we know we've lost a lot of faith and we've made people feel really shaky about the Xbox brand as of late. Don't worry, we're committed. And that was kind of what she's saying. She's like, hey, here's a couple new hardware iterations of the Xbox Series brand or lineup. But just so you know, we're really focused and dedicated to more Xbox hardware in the future. And we're focused on this brand. Like, we're not going anywhere. So don't lose faith in us, basically. And these 3 Xbox refreshes, if you want to call it that she announces, is basically the first one. We'll start from least interesting to most interesting, in my opinion. The first one is an Xbox Series S with 1 terabyte of hard drive space. You might be saying, Jesse, that already came out. Yeah, it's the same thing as that one, but now it's in white. So the original 500 gigabyte Series S is in white, and then last year they did that black one that has a terabyte hard drive, and now they have that same one with the terabyte hard drive, but it's available in the original white color. So that's one thing they have. Don't ask me why, but whatever. The second one they announced is that one that has been leaking recently, where it's an Xbox Series X, but it's in white and it does not have a disk drive. So keep in mind they didn't release any of the pricing for these, but you can assume this one will be a little cheaper because it is a diskless Xbox Series X, and it still has the regular 1 terabyte hard drive. And then the third one that they showed is, and this is the one that didn't leak, so I think this is the one that comes off as a surprise, is another Xbox Series X, but it's not the Project Brooklyn or any of those things we've seen. It's just a slightly modified SKU of the original, so it's still black, but it has a 2 terabyte hard drive instead of 1 terabyte hard drive. It still has the disk drive, and it has a little bit of a color accent, so it's black, but it has like this space dusty, like speckly, sparkly thing on it. And then the stand on the bottom of the console, instead of being black, is like the signature Xbox green color. And then on the controller that comes with it, it's a black controller with that space dusty particle like thing all over it. And then the back of the black controller has, again, that Xbox green color. So it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of like an Xbox Series X Elite version. So it's not like a new, more powerful version. It's not like a slim model. It's the same Xbox Series X that already exists. It just has a slightly altered color scheme that's special, and 2 terabytes instead of 1. So I think that's pretty cool. So my guess is what they're going to try to do with that, use this to push console sales this holiday, especially with Call of Duty being in Game Pass. They're going to try to use this to be like, hey, here's a 1 terabyte Xbox Series S. It's $250. Hey, here's an Xbox Series X with no disc. $350, $400. Hey, here's an Xbox Series X with double the storage, and it has a pretty color scheme. That's going to be $500, and it'll replace maybe the standard Series X. I don't know, something like that. But they didn't release pricing, so we don't know yet. I'm just purely speculating. But it is important to note here that with this announcement, it confirms that, at least for now, we're not getting that Project Brooklyn, that like cube looking Wi-Fi router looking Xbox Series X without a disc. We're also not getting that controller Project Sable that was like the Xbox Series X gamepad, but it has the functionality of like a DualSense with like the crazy rumble features and haptics and the triggers. So it looks like as of now, none of that stuff is happening. I wonder if those ideas and designs have been punted for the next generation of Xbox. I assume that's what the plan is, and that for the Series X generation, they're just going to continue to use what we currently have. But important, worth noting, I think Xbox realizes there was a little bit of an error on their part this generation by not doing much to change the controller and not doing much to change the UI on the hardware. That even though in some sense it was cool that they did that because it kept a consistent, it kept like a consistency throughout their I don't know, like their like it kept a continuity with Xbox hardware and with their platform. In the same breath, it was also a little disappointing because when you buy a next generation piece of gaming hardware, history has kind of trained us to expect an updated dashboard, a slightly altered gamepad, things like that. So I think they realized that was maybe an error and not like a bonus feature or like a continuity thing. And so I think they're going to try to say those Project Sable ideas and maybe like an updated UI for like the next generation of Xbox. And so for now, we're not going to see those things as we play out the final years of the Xbox Series X. That's just my assumption. But yeah, so that was the last big announcement. And then Sarah Bond, as she wraps up that statement, does the whole, oh yeah, and one more thing. So then we get to the final announcement of the show, the one more thing moment. And I feel kind of silly at this point because I'm like, okay, one more thing. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I expected that. And my stupid brain was like, now what could the one more moment thing be? And like, I don't think we're going to see Halo. There's no Halo. Stop thinking about Halo. I'm like, maybe Double Fine gets an announcement. And I was hoping for something Double Fine. And for some reason, my brain totally forgot about Gears of War at this point. I don't know why. So like, I made it probably 5 seconds into the trailer of this one more announcement before I realized, holy shit, of course, this is Gears of War. What is wrong with me? And so, yeah, here we go. Gears of War E-Day. So before we get into like what the fuck's happening, let's just read my stupid in the moment keystrokes, and then we'll read the Xbox Wire post. So I wrote world premiere Gears 6 of War. I wrote Gears 6 of War and then crossed it out. Put E-Day, Day 1 Game Pass, cinematic tease, no info, no gameplay. What about Gears 6? Blur Studios did the animation, probably really early in development. This is the next game that we will ask about for a while but won't see due to a premature announcement, I assume. That's what I wrote. Here's what Xbox Wire wrote. Gears of War E-Day is the next mainline game in the Gears of War universe. Set during the pivotal Emergence Day, 14 years before Gears of War, war heroes Marcus Phoenix and Dom Santiago return home to face a new nightmare, the Locust Horde. These subterranean monsters, grotesque and relentless, erupt from below, laying siege to humanity itself. In the announcement trailer for the series' next major installment, the Coalition has teamed up with Blur Studios to forge a visually stunning trailer using in-game assets in Unreal Engine 5. It features a new instrumental version of Mad World, originally performed by Gary Jules for the iconic 2006 commercial, now brilliantly reimagined by the game's composer Adam Lastiuka. Fuck me. The trailer made its debut in 4K resolution at 30 FPS, 5.1 stereo. These specs are optimized for streaming, do not represent the final game's performance. So all of that is a fancy way of saying we got a cinematic trailer for a game that's probably really, really early in development and has nothing to show for yet. But let's not be all pessimistic and mean about it. Let's talk good things first. So it's been 5 years since Gears of War 5 came out, and we finally have the announcement of a new Gears game. It's been 5 years since Gears of War 5 came out, and the Coalition has announced they're working on a game. Jesse, what about Hivebusters that came out in 2020 when the Xbox Series came out? Shut up. It's been 4 years since Hivebusters. It was a DLC spinoff. It's been 5 years since they've really done anything substantial. We know they did some support work, and they're the shepherds of the IP of Gears of War, so they did some stuff with Gears Tactics, but they didn't develop Gears Tactics. So what the fuck had the Coalition been doing? Well, we know the rumor was they were working on a new IP. They were shifting away from Gears of War for a bit. That got canceled internally. Then they went back to Gears of War, and now they're making Gears of War E-Day. So this is a prequel. It is in the main canon, so this is the Halo Reach of Gears of War, essentially. So Halo Reach, it's a canon game. You play Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, then Reach, then 4, 5, and Infinite. That's fine. In Gears of War, I guess you'll play Gears of War 1, 2, 3, take a break, 4, 5, E-Day, 6. I don't know what the plan is. The problem is, with Halo, there's this clean cut where it's like, you play 1, 2, and 3, that's a great stopping point. Then you get Reach, which is a great prequel, and then there's a great break between that, and then you get 4, 5, and Infinite, and that's the next like trilogy, or would have been if 343 didn't absolutely botch the fucking storytelling between 5, and 6. But anyway, that's beside the point. The thing about this is, like, this is a great idea for a video game. This is a great setting to pick. I love the idea of this. I think this is absolutely the game they should make after Gears of War 6. I'd be so hyped for it. Unfortunately, what breaks my heart here is this seems like the Coalition plus Xbox kind of making something out of nothing with the Gears 5 story. It's like saying, I'm talking all over myself because there's a million ways I want to attack this. I understand that there are a lot of Gears of War fans out there that feel like the current Gears of War isn't the Gears of War they fell in love with. And by going to this prequel, which is a great story they had to tell here, so it's, the game kind of writes itself with the subject matter at hand here. They have a really good opportunity to go back and do a Marcus Phoenix classic cast style Gears of War game that will get people really hyped again and gives you an opportunity to recapture that lost demographic of OG Gears of War fans that you've lost since the Xbox One happened. And I get that that's really something you need right now because Xbox is in a position where it's like trying to gain back its reputation and its trust with its lapsed fans and with its current fans that are somewhat disenfranchised. And I understand that this is a really enticing game to put on Game Pass, a lot more enticing than Gears 6. A game called Gears 6 is discouraging to people who aren't already very invested in the Gears of War universe. And a game called Gears of War E-Day, that is a prequel to the Gears of War games you loved 15 years ago, is very enticing to people that own a PlayStation, used to have an Xbox 360, and really are nostalgic for the good old Xbox Live days. So if you are making your decisions of which games to make, which games to greenlight, which games to pursue based on what will best serve Game Pass as a service, then this is the right game to make, and they made the right choice, and I'm very excited for it. And all in a bubble where we're just talking about this game and nothing around it, this game sounds great. It's a great subject matter to explore. Why can't Gears of War have its own Halo Reach? I also miss Marcus Phoenix and the gang in the old days and all that stuff, so this works. And guess what? It was a great fucking trailer. Blur, they did amazing work as always, had a stunning looking CGI cinematic. You got fucking young Marcus Phoenix, who's barely recognizable, getting his face pummeled by a locust, possibly the first time he's ever encountered one. And it's crazy watching him get beat the fuck up in this like ruins of a building. And then Dom busts through the door, and it comes through the wreckage of the door, and he's like, "I'm gonna save you, buddy." And so Marcus defeats the locust. The locust falls down the building. Marcus is about to fall to his death, grabs onto a ledge, and before he accidentally loses his grasp and slips, Dom's got him. He goes, "Hey, buddy, I got you. I'm going to pull you up." And then in the background, you hear like this somber piano version of Mad World. It takes you back to 2005, 2006. You feel like you're in 7th grade again. All of a sudden, you feel the possibilities are endless. You got a full head of hair, and you have a crush on a girl in your math class. And you're like, "Holy fuck, I have so much ahead of me." And you feel like whole inside. And then you start to tear up, and you feel emotional, right? And then it says, Gears of War, E-Day. And you're like, oh man. And Dom hands him his bandana. Marcus puts it on. You're like, that's just slightly younger Marcus Phoenix. That's what that is right there. I know that guy. I remember. And then you start eating the member berries from South Park, and we're all happy again. And I love the idea of this game. I want this game. I'm hyped for it. But in making this decision, I understand this better services Game Pass, and I think my logic is sound. you have a much better chance of attracting new players and attracting lapsed players by saying, here's a great jumping on point for Gears of War, and it's got the cast you remember and love, and it's a really great it's an all new adventure that's geared towards nostalgic old school players of the franchise. It's a really great way to draw people in. Whereas Gear 6, find out the conclusion of Kate's story is harder to sell, because the only people who are going to be interested in that are the people who stuck with Gears of War throughout all the years. And unfortunately, there's not that many people left in that camp compared to the number of people that used to play Gears 2 and Gears 3 back in the 360 days. So I totally get the decision from that point of view. But in doing this, you kind of put a target on Gears 5 and 6's back. And you make a statement that I'm sure you don't intend to make, Xbox, but you've made it nonetheless in doing this, which is you're kind of saying, we know you guys don't like Gears 4, 5, and 6 as much as you like the old years, and we know you don't like the new characters as much, and we know you're not really happy with the way we wrap things up with Gears 5, so we're just going to kind of like punt that story for a while, and we'll figure it out when we feel like it. And in the meantime, hey, here's the member berries. Here's Gears of War. Here's Marcus Phoenix. Come on back, eat them up, you know? And I mean, they even go back to calling the game Gears of War. Remember when Gears of War 5 got rebranded Gears 5 for marketing reasons or whatever? And people are like, where's the of War? It's like, oh, here's the of War. You miss of War? Here you go. Member berries, eat them up. So I'm torn with this, because if I'm just talking about the game itself, it's just like Halo Infinite all over again. Halo Infinite did the same thing. They're like, what if we just kind of stab Halo 5 in the back and we just make the next Halo game look like Halo 3, even though it makes no fucking sense story-wise? How are we going to explain why the art style just changed overnight? I don't fucking know. Let's just punt. Let's just say there's like a few months between what happened in that game and what happens in this game, and just like not tell that story. Let's just not finish the story we said. Okay. It's just weird. It's like if Halo came out like Halo 1, 2, then Reach, then 5-year break, then Halo 3. It's like, what the hell? Finish your fucking story. What if it was Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo Reach 3, or whatever, just a random spinoff, and then Halo Infinite or something. Whatever. It's weird. And you're kind of making a bad statement about 4 and 5 and the new cast of characters, the new story you're telling, when you really shouldn't. Because the thing about Gears 5 is, even though it ends on a cliffhanger where you have to make a decision that is going to greatly impact how the next game plays out, everything except that controversial decision in the last 10 minutes of that game is great. Everyone agrees. Everyone who's played it agrees. Gears 4 and 5 have great stories. And the new cast of characters are great. And the new gameplay innovations, and the new guns, and the new quality of life improvements in Gears of War 4 and 5, great. I think the Coalition has done a way better job of keeping the spirit of Gears of War alive and doing that franchise justice than 343 has done with Halo. And so I guess it kind of bothers me a little bit to see Gears of War 5 and 6 get disrespected, even if inadvertently done so, when they didn't deserve that. So, I don't know. It's just weird, because it's been 5 years since Gears 5, so you're already late on getting the ball rolling on Gears 6, and now you're going to make a new Gears of War game that's unrelated to that, and you're clearly in early development because all you have is a title screen and a CGI trailer made by a different studio. So you're probably 3 or 4 years away from this game being out, and that's like best case scenario. I want to say 2026, but this is probably a 2027 game. And then by the time that comes out, it's like, shit, like Gears 5 was like 8 years ago. When do we get Gears 6? And so I'm a little worried about that angle. But if I'm not thinking about Gears 6, and I'm not trying to get all down the rabbit hole on that, I'm just purely thinking about Gears of War E-Day. Fuck yeah, man. Gears of War E-Day sounds great. I'm ready for it. I'm fucking lock me in. The Xbox Series X generation is going to go down in history for me personally as the generation where Xbox said, fuck Halo, fuck Gears of War, we're just going to go back for nostalgia and try to get the things people liked about them 15 years ago. Because that's how I feel. Because in the Xbox One generation, I loved Halo 5, I loved Gears 4 and 5, and I was like, man, these series are still great. These new entries are still great. People don't know what they're missing. They're over there on PlayStation raving about Horizon Zero Dawn and and Bloodborne and all this stuff. And no disrespect to those games, but like people are really sleeping on like Quantum Break and Halo 5 and Gears 5 and shit like that. And that's how I felt in the Xbox One generation. I was grateful that Xbox was sticking to these franchises and doing them well, in my opinion. And then the Xbox Series X generation is just like, fuck them. Let's just stab them all in the back. Fuck them. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I guess we'll just pretend those games didn't happen, I guess. So I don't know. I'm of multiple minds, but trying to just stay positive and looking at the game alone as its own announcement, its own product, looking at this as a new Gears of War game announced in this presentation along with all these other games. Fuck yeah, man. Gears E-Day. Gears of War E-Day. Let's fucking do it. Gears E-Day. Yeah, you gotta put the of war, otherwise it sounds dumb as fuck saying it. But still, I mean, that was the one last thing moment. Great game to end on, man. Absolutely. Phenomenal announcement. Killer cutscene or CGI trailer. Absolutely heartstring moment, tugging on the heartstrings, getting all your old school fans teary-eyed and nostalgic for the old days. Killer job. You absolutely nailed it. The tone of old school Gears, we're all ready for it. So that wraps it up, man. 31 items in total. It's amazing. So here's the thing is 31 items, but it's 30 games. And of those 30 games, I think I count like 21 or 22 of them are games I'm looking forward to playing, or games that I do play that I will play once this new DLC or expansion comes out. And so it's just like, it's fucking amazing, man. Like, it's generally with a game showcase, like I would say like if 20% of the announcements are interesting to you, then it was a good showcase, because you got to have a little something for everyone. You know, you don't go to a theme park and expect everything's for you. You know, the carousel is for your son or your daughter who's like 4 years old. And you know the roller coaster does like a 200-foot drop and 3 loop-de-loops. That's for you. So it's like you don't expect everything to be for you. You know the cotton candy on a stick, that's for your kid. The beer and hot dog, that's for you, man. It's like a little something for everyone. So I came into this showcase saying, hey, if we can get 4 or 5 games that I'm looking forward to playing, that's a great showcase. Well, fuck, we got like over 20 games I want to play here. That's a damn good showcase. So you always see it like on Twitter and stuff. What would you rate the latest Xbox showcase? What do you think about Summer Game Fest? What do you think about the PlayStation State of Play? A, B, C, C minus? Like, how would you? If I'm being honest, man, I don't think you can rate this showcase anything less than an A. I don't think I've ever been that optimistic and given that much praise to one of these game showcases. Like, honestly, I don't think you can give this thing anything less than an A. Pacing, brilliant. The amount of gameplay, like they really stepped it up. They heard the feedback of like so many of these events give way too much CGI trailers, not enough gameplay. There were a couple instances of that, but for the most part, this was a lot more gameplay than usual. Pacing was great. No game lingered on too long. It was never like, oh, it's 30 minutes of this and then 2 seconds of that and then 5 minutes of this and then 2 minutes of that. It was great. Everything got like 1 to 3 minutes, and it was like next game. Every time an executive came out on stage, they were basically like, hi, I exist. Here's a splash screen. Next game. It's like, awesome, man. Just keep it going. And the games they showed were fucking great. So overall, I don't know how you could say this was anything less than an A. And if you want to say A plus, or hell, if we're doing like the tier ranking and people are like S tier, I don't think there's a wrong answer. You gotta be fucking crazy to think this wasn't a great event. So props to Xbox. Really proud of them. Now, that being said, let's go back to the 10 things I was expecting to see and talk about what did and didn't get touched on. So the first thing I said was just, I want to see more Avowed. That's all I wrote. They showed Avowed, so check. And then I put South of Midnight. Could provide some serious gameplay diversity, which is much needed for Xbox. Check. They did exactly that. Next up, I said, I want to see extended gameplay for indie. I'll give a half check for that because it was in-engine gameplay and stuff, but it was an in-engine cutscene more than it was gameplay. They showed some gameplay, but not really extended gameplay, so I'll give a half check for that. Next up, I said Fable gameplay. I'll give a reluctant check to that. They showed more gameplay than last year, but I want to see extended gameplay, although I wasn't specific here, so I'll give it a check. I think we got a lot more than we got last year. The game looks a lot better than it's ever looked, and I'm very excited for it, but I feel like they could have showed a little more. And then next up, I said Perfect Dark gameplay. Well, we got exactly that. That's a solid fucking check mark right there. And then I put next, does State of Decay 3 do anything to make these games more appealing to casuals? Well, I'd say from a presentation and quality perspective, like a fidelity perspective, it looks like it's more AAA looking, although I don't know that we saw enough to see that it's really casual and easy to pick up and play. So I'll give it a half check there. And then next I put Black Ops 6 is just badass. I'm going to give that a check because Black Ops 6 was badass, and we'll get into that direct in a second. And then I put, is Contraband real? That is going to be a big old X because we did not see Contraband at this event at all. I think that game is officially marked as vaporware. That game is canceled. I'm telling you right now, that studio just had some layoffs. I'm going to tell you right now that game's not happening anymore. Clockwork Revolution, that was like a half one. I didn't know if we would get that because I know that game is still early-ish in development, and last year was just kind of more of an announcement thing and less of a gameplay. But I think we'll see it next year. So I'm fine with, if that game is absent for 2 or 3 years, we got a problem. But for 1 year early in its development cycle for it to be absent, I think we're fine. But as long as we see it next year, I'm okay with that. And then the last one I put was, will Double Fine have an announcement? And to that, unfortunately, we have to put a big X. I know a lot of people are worried about this one because, we know that Xbox Game Studios has some layoffs that they still haven't gone through, which we're not anticipating, but we're unfortunately expecting in the near future. So a lot of people are worried that because Double Fine doesn't have a game announced in active development that's far along, that they might be a prime candidate for layoffs or closure. I really fucking hope that's not true. Xbox, you really fucked up if you end up being the company that took down Double Fine, because they are a long storied gem in this industry, and you got to be a true fucking asshole to get rid of those guys. So let me just put that out there before anything happens. But yeah, so I'd say 7 checks and 3 X's. Did pretty good there. Now let's go back and real quick before we talk about the Call of Duty Direct, I wanted to touch on. Yeah, just overall thoughts. So I already talked about the A tier, S tier, ranking, whatever. I think they had a lot for everyone. I think Xbox never has enough like truly kiddie content, like content for kids aimed at young audiences, truthfully. But I'm just going to say some games. Black Ops 6, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Gears of War E-Day, Doom the Dark Ages, Avowed, Stalker 2, Fable, Mixtape, Perfect Dark, Expedition 33, South of Midnight. I'm trying to avoid live service updates. State of Decay 3, Atomfall, and Mecha Break. And you can even put Fragpunk in there. And you can even put Winterboro in there. That's 16 games. And that covers free-to-play arena shooters, small indie games, European slow fucking the open world survival action games. That's open world zombie resource management games. That's spy espionage first person parkour games. That's classic first person shooters. That's licensed movie AAA games. That's your third person action over the shoulder action reload shooters. It's your classic first person arena style godlike shooters with Doom. You got your Western open world RPGs. You got a Western made turn-based role-playing RPG. You've got a third-person action adventure. You got, another Western style RPG, but more action RPG. I mean, you got a lot here. You got a lot of variety here. So it's just, you got multiplayer mech 3D or third-person game. So like, you got like an indie, like walking sim, like 3-hour narrative game. I mean, you've got such a gamut of games here. It's like, yeah, there's a lot for everyone here. And I think what I put was, so this is the list I was alluding to earlier. These are the games that we saw at the showcase that I personally think I would say are like a certified banger, like a game that based on what we saw and my expectations of the game or my understanding of the game, I think these games look like certified bangers. So of the 30 games we saw, I put Black Ops 6, Doom, The Dark Age, Claire, Obscure, Expedition 33, South of Midnight, Perfect Dark, Fable, Mixtape, Indie, Avowed, Atomfall, Stalker 2, and Gears E-Day. 12 games that were shown I put as certified bangers, like games that look like absolute bangers. And, in some cases, like Gears of War, we didn't even see that game. It's like, okay, well, it's going to be a fucking Gears of War game. I know what it is. These are games that to me, like, stood out as like, fuck yeah, I want to play this game. And Cronky made a point. He said to me, hey, if there's one thing I got to hold this showing for, it's that hold it accountable for. It's that this one didn't have any of those like jaw drop, like bet you didn't see this coming kind of like announcements. Like there were no games that were announced where it's like, oh my God, never in my life did I think this would happen. We knew a Gears of War game was coming. I think to some extent that's victim of like leaks and rumors, because like we knew a Gears of War game was coming because of leaks and rumors. We knew about I think we knew about what else? Let me see. We knew about Doom: The Dark Age because of leaks and rumors. We knew about Black Ops 6 being set in the time period it is and having the features it has because of leaks and rumors. So a lot of these things, it's like they didn't have the opportunity to be surprises. But I think that's somewhat of a fair criticism. But like the way I put it was like, I'd rather have like 25 really good looking games and 5 whatever games than have like 2 jaw-dropping, mind-blowing announcements and then like 28 games that are like okay to whatever. So to me, it's like I don't care, because we just got so much like inundation with games that look objectively fantastic. All right, and I want to get into this Call of Duty Direct, but first I'm going to go into the audience thoughts and reactions, because everyone wrote in about not Call of Duty. But before we do that, real quick, I just want to put this. So this is Xbox's lineup, and this is just like first party games, not like third parties or double A's or indies or anything. This is Xbox's 2025 lineup so far. So last year it was all about Starfield and Forza Motorsport and Hi-Fi Rush and Redfall, right? And then this year it's all about Indiana Jones and Avowed and Hellblade, and Flight Sim and all that. So this is the big lineup for 2025 based on the dates we got today. So our big, well, normally they do 4, but we have a big 5 for next year. Doom: The Dark Ages, Fable, South of Midnight, State of Decay 3, and COD 2025. I know COD's a little bit of a cheap out because you're always going to have COD every year, so it's like, okay, shut up, man. But let's take COD out of it. Doom: The Dark Ages, Fable, South of Midnight, and State of Decay 3. So you could see in January when they do their 3rd annual developer direct, where they focus on their 4 big games of the year coming up ahead, you would get Doom, Fable, South of Midnight, and State of Decay. That sounds like a phenomenal lineup. You get a frantic, action-paced, crazy, godlike first-person boomer shooter. You get a Western-style, comedic, open-world action RPG. You get this beautifully stylized, unique, one-of-a-kind third-person action-adventure narrative game. And you get this open-world, multiplayer, zombie survival game that is going to have a live service element to it. And then, of course, Call of Duty, which is going to sell like crack. So, I mean, that's a pretty fucking strong lineup for 2025. And we're only halfway through 2024, and we're still looking forward to Indiana Jones and Black Ops 6 and Avowed. So, I mean, I'm overwhelmed, man. I'm still looking to get to a couple. There's a couple games that are more immediate in my backlog right now as I'm wrapping up the final shape with Destiny 2, where I'm like, I'm just trying to get some things cleaned up before we head into the fall, so I can have the free time and in the mind space to get into some of these games that are upcoming. And now I'm already inundated with shit that looks good for next year. Like it's looking good on Xboxes in front. And if you want to look beyond that, this is 2026, 2027. We got Perfect Dark, Gears of War E-Day, Clockwork Revolution, Outer Worlds 2, Everwild, not to mention COD 2026, COD 2027, probably a Forza game or 2 in that mix. And then, of course, Contraband, if it isn't somehow Vaporware and it does come out one day, we'll have that as well. So, I mean, it's just, we've got a lot of shit here, man. Like, we got a lot of games we're looking forward to. Also, Blade. I got to put Blade on there as well. That's probably a 2027 game or something like that. So, yeah, man, I mean, Xbox is in a really strong place. And this is kind of what's unfortunate about what I kept saying earlier in the year about if they could have just held out a little bit longer. And I know we've cried that cry a million times before here on the Xbox side of things, where it's like, man, if they could have just held out a little longer before they started putting things on PlayStation, it's like all Xbox has ever needed is just like an 18 to 24 month period of like a couple of months, boom, Game Pass hit, couple of months, boom, Game Pass hit, couple of months, boom, another Game Pass hit, where they're just having like banger after banger after banger every quarter or less. And we're finally at that point where they can have that cadence. We just got Hellblade. We're about to get Avowed. We're going to get Call of Duty. We're going to get Indie. We're going to get Doom. We're going to get Fable. We're going to get South of Midnight. We're going to get State of Decay. And it's going to go boom, 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 one after another, after another, after another. And you pair that with like discounted Xbox hardware, Game Pass as a lucrative way to get in and enjoy all of these games, and Sony basically having like 1 to 2 fucking games coming out to talk about. It looks really good over here on Xbox. Why don't you fucking come on over, subscribe to Game Pass, get yourself a Series S for $200 or whatever it costs, and let's play some really good games. Let's eat like it's the Xbox 360 years all over again. And unfortunately, it's like if Phil Spencer and the team could have just staved off investors and Satya Nadella and the like a little bit, and Tim Stewart and these guys a little bit longer, maybe they could have finally had that moment to prove all this. But now it feels like the conversation, the logic is so muddied because now it's like, yeah, you do have Doom and Fable and South of Midnight and State of Decay and Stalker 2 and all these games, but it's like, but also you're just going to put all those games on PlayStation 5 anyway, aren't you? In fact, we already know Doom is coming to PlayStation 5, so it's like, yeah, right? PlayStation people can just wait for all these games to come over there. And yes, you can make the old school argument that we used to talk about like 2 years ago where it's like, yeah, Xbox might as well just put all these games on PlayStation so that they can make you look like a fucking idiot and be like, yeah, here, go buy Doom for $70 on PlayStation 5, or be a smart person with a big brain, subscribe to Game Pass, get it for $15 and go play it on the Xbox side of things. It's like, yeah, you look like a fucking idiot when you're buying it for $70 on PlayStation. But either way, they'll make money, and it just, I don't know, it just seems like an unfortunate capitulation that didn't necessarily had to be made, and it does. I know it sounds fanboyish, and I know it sounds silly, and like, why do you care so much about this company? But like, it does seem like, to some extent, it's like a fallen friend or like a lost battle or something over here on the Xbox side of things, where it's like, oh, that's just too sad. It's like PlayStation gets to have their cake and eat it too, and Xbox doesn't. And if anything, Xbox is the one working for it right now with all the games they got coming out, while PlayStation's sitting back and making it rich off of Fortnite microtransactions because they have the largest install base. It's like, I don't know, man. It seems a little fucked. But overall, I'm just on a super high note with how this showcase went. Let's get into some audience thoughts. I just asked on Twitter real quick, hey, just let me know what you guys thought of the show. So we'll read these more and more as you guys comment throughout the week. But for now, thank you to those of you that did write in right now. So let's just go down the list in order of write in. Bryce Cuba says, hey, new Gears of War new Gears about E-Day had me fired up. Glad to see Avowed and Perfect Dark gameplay. I agree about South of Midnight. Just happy to be a Game Pass guy right now. Yep. You just say the games. They all make you happy. It's like, oh yeah, in that one. Oh fuck yeah, in that one too. It's good, man. I mean, this is like, it's so weird because Summer Game Fest, and we'll get into it on next week's episode, was so underwhelming and so fucking boring to me. I like wanted to fall asleep by the second hour. And so much of like what's happened lately, like Sony's State of Play the other day, like that new Astrobot game looks so fucking cool. But aside from that, like their State of Play was so boring. And I'm like, man, I miss E3. I miss the hype and the excitement. It's like, is Xbox the only ones that can bring it now? Like, are they the only ones who are going to give us the hype presentations now? And it's not just like hype for hype's sake. It's like, these games are real. These games are coming, man. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, in Gears, oh yeah, in Avowed, and oh yeah, in Perfect Dark. And on PlayStation, it's like, listen, if you're on PlayStation, you have just as many good games to play as we do on Xbox. I'm not trying to make a statement like that. It's just that, like, from a first-party support standpoint, it's like, I don't know, what are you looking forward to? Oh yeah, and Lego Horizon and Astrobot looks pretty good. I guess I can just keep playing. I'll just keep playing Helldivers 2 or something. It sucks, man. It sucks compared to what Xbox has got going on. It's just I don't mean that as like a PlayStation sucks, Xbox is awesome thing. It just seems that way. Like there's no hype over there, and it's like don't you miss the events and the hype? It's like even if it is a little showman like showboaty or whatever, it's like it's fun. Don't you miss fun? I miss fun. And the kinds of games Xbox has coming right now, it's like they're not too serious, they're not too sad dad and all that. They're fun. It's like, yeah, man, Perfect Dark looks like a cool, badass, fun game. Fable looks like it's gonna make me laugh. I'm gonna get engrossed in the world building. It's gonna be fun. You know, South of Midnight looks like it's gonna be a really fun 12-hour game. Like I'm gonna have a good time playing the mechanics of the video game. And to me, I'm like, yeah, that's what gaming used to be about. I miss that. I can't wait to play Black Ops 6 and be like, yeah, the government espionage and Frank Woods and, oh, he's in a wheelchair. What the fuck happened? Raul Menendez, we got to kill that motherfucker. And, like, just the fucking stupid Soviet versus the American shit and all of it. Like, I'm just excited for this stupidity and the fun and the mundanity. And I don't know, man. Bring on Nazi zombies. Let's fucking do it. Let's shoot some zombies. Cronky writes in and says, very good showcase. Hopefully that Atomfall turns out to be an immersive sim. Also, I read that Xbox Wire post, and it looks like Gears will be a little more horror than the first, which sounds great. Overall, very good show. I did not read that, or I skimmed it, so I guess I didn't pick up on that. But yeah, I'll be really interested to see, because the thing is, and I know people don't want to admit this, but it's true. I'm sorry. Even though the original Gears trilogy is so great because of the characters and the story beats and how revolutionary the game was for the time, the fact of the matter is the Coalition makes way better games with Gears 4 and 5. Like, those games feel more satisfying to play. The level design's better, the movement's better, the gunplay is better. So I'm excited to play a Gears of War game that is set in the time period and with the characters that we're all more nostalgic and preferential towards, but has the gameplay and level design and sensibilities that the Coalition are known for, because the Coalition make better Gears games than Epic did. It's just a fact. You can like Marcus Phoenix and Dom Santiago and all these guys more. That's totally fine. That's a good take, but the Coalition makes better games. So you're marrying the best two parts of both of those trilogies, or both those two arcs, and I think it's going to be a great game. So yeah, that's awesome. Gunny Chief writes in and says, great showcase overall. South of Midnight looks new and fresh. My only gripe is South of Midnight cinematics or cutscenes look like it's running at about 20 FPS. Yeah, I think that's that like Spider-Verse artistic style they're going for. I think it's intentional, but I mean, we'll have to wait until we play it, but I think it will feel good when you play it. I think it's one of those things where like the camera and the world will be 60 FPS, but like the characters' animations are intentionally that 24 FPS look to make it look whatever it is, 20 FPS, 16 FPS, however it works. But it's a stylistic choice. It's not an issue. Mike Clark writes in and says Indiana Jones might be game of the year material. Might be, man. I mean, this year my game of the year this year is Wasteland 3. I know it's an older game, but I played it this year and that's my game of the year. I don't know what's going to beat that. But yeah, you're right. Indiana Jones looks like it's going to be a very special game, and I'm very excited for it. It looks like it has potential to be on that like Insomniac Spider-Man / Batman Arkham level of like, I can't believe how good a job they did with this IP. So I'm with you. I feel like it has that potential. Hopefully it lands it. Derek Dodd wrote in and says, dude, that was fantastic. Short, sweet. I agree with you completely, Derek. Thank you for writing in. And lastly, Arctic Chief says, I'm glad I got to see more Fable finally, and we got a preview of Perfect Dark on top of that. Holy cow, Doom the Dark Ages may be my introduction to the series. Like the new Dragon Age names as well. By the way, I miss making comments on the podcast. Schedule change has me out of whack. You know what? All that matters, Arctic Chief, is that you're here and that you enjoyed the show, and I'm happy for you. It's good to hear from you, man. Good to see you. Y'all look beautiful. You and your Twitter profile pictures, you all look like a bunch of fucking sexy boys to me. So thank you for writing in. Glad you guys enjoyed the showcase. I'm overwhelmingly positive. Like, it's like you have to be nitpicking to find a reason to not like what was shown today. And it's so, dude, it's comforting, man. And these are the kinds of moments that like show and prove. It's like a lot of the times, like the internet is full of chicanery and nonsense and debauchery. I'm not trying to argue against that, but a lot of times, like I get this a lot, like when I'm following news in the Disney community and people are bitching about how modern Disney sucks at what they do, because they do suck. And, you know, people bitch and moan about like decisions Xbox and Microsoft are making because these decisions do suck, and people bitch and moan about things that are happening in the games industry and negative trends that are happening, and because some of these things just do suck. And people are, and then there's always that devil's advocate or that naysayer who's like, everyone's so negative, everyone just hates everything, no one's happy, no one can be happy with anything. It's like, yeah, but like, it's because there's a lot of bullshit half the time. There's like a lot of reason not to like it or to be happy or to be like to believe the hype. And this is one of those rare moments where like everything was just so true and so genuine, like, so, and let me not say those words because that's nonsense. Everything was just exactly what people wanted to hear and say and see, to the point where it's like unanimously, man, like go on a toxic, miserable place right now, like Reddit, like Twitter, and look at what people are saying about Xbox. It's overwhelmingly positive because this is what the people want. Gameplay, not cinematics. Brief brief showing of many, many video games. Don't just linger on one thing for 20 minutes. We don't need to see a 30-minute gameplay demo of Microsoft Flight Sim. Just keep the ball rolling. We don't need executives telling us about their lunch schedule this week with clients. Keep the ball rolling. And they delivered on all fronts. They showed the games we wanted to see. They showed gameplay of the games we wanted to see. We got a lot of release timeframes and release dates. We got a really good snapshot of what Xbox is going to look like for the next 12 to 18 months. And we got an idea of what it's going to look like beyond that. And it was wonderfully done. It's a great time to be an Xbox console owner with a Game Pass subscription, truthfully. So people are excited about that. And I love it. It makes me happy to see people happy. It makes me happy that I get to be happy about Xbox because I love Xbox, believe it or not. That's why I do a podcast about it. So it's always exciting when I have a reason to be excited about it. All right. Overall thoughts. Let me see if there's anything I missed. I said, so much for everyone. This is the brand firing on all cylinders. Great focus on gameplay, not too much cinematics. No mention of PlayStation at all. Unfortunately, that was unfortunate that the brand is going through what the brand's going through outside the walls of the showcase, because if you did not know any better, you would think Xbox 360, or it's Xbox 360 over here. Games like Clockwork Revolution are deep in development, so I did not expect to see that this time, but still unfortunate we did not see an update. Contraband is definitely not happening. No Double Fine, otherwise all my hopes were met and more. Despite some light hardware refreshes, there is no Project Brooklyn upgrade or Sable controller. Okay, those are the additional thoughts I wrote as random bullet points, so I don't know. I just thought I'd read them here in case I forgot a talking point. All right, I guess the only thing left to touch on, and I left this for last because I know a lot of people here are probably not Call of Duty people, and so I want to give you guys an option to opt out if you're done listening. And if you are a Call of Duty fan, let's just take a brief 10 minutes and talk about this Call of Duty Direct. There's not too much more to say, and I'm ready to wrap this thing up anyway. I'm tired. So real quick. So, the Black Ops Direct, it started literally immediately after Gears of War's thing, after the showcase ended. Just like the Starfield Direct last year, in the Halo Direct they did in 2021, and what was the one in 2022 they did? I don't fucking remember. Who cares? So, it opens up. Mark Gordon, studio head of Treyarch, is there, and they touch lightly on campaign, and then they move into multiplayer, and then they move into zombies. For campaign, it's like a 20-minute Direct. They show a lot of the campaign. Campaign looks absolutely badass. Takes place after early parts of Black Ops 2 and after the events of Cold War, but before the later parts of Black Ops 2. They have this cool safe house, so they carry over those ideas from Cold War, where it has like the mission board, and you can like kind of do some investigating and reading more about mission stats. They didn't really talk about making decisions and choices and like branching paths. So I don't know if this is going to have that Black Ops 2, Black Ops Cold War thing where you'll get to choose, like, make decisions and then have branching story paths. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. It seems like it's going to be a little more linear like Black Ops 1 was. But overall, I mean, I don't want to linger on too much more because I feel like we talked about it at the top. But the campaign looks really fucking awesome. Like, it's the time period, the setting. It just looks like more Black Ops Cold War, but set in the 90s, and I'm all for it. It's the spirit of Black Ops, but it's a fun Call of Duty. This is the franchise at its best. You know, last year's Call of Duty sucked so much ass with that slap together Modern Warfare 3 that was such a piss on everything Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 2022 did, and Vanguard was such a piece of shit. And it's just nice that, you know, after some shitty Call of Duty games, we got a really good one here. So I'm very excited about that. For multiplayer, the big news here is that Omni movement thing, where they're like, we're introducing the ability for you to be able to run in every direction, forward, backward, left, right, as well as to be able to like do like a Max Payne style like action dive. You can do it backwards, sideways, forward, whatever, which is fucking awesome. And they talked about like a new like scope peeking around corners and stuff kind of mechanic. Keep in mind that this is the first Black Ops game that has been forced to be developed in the Modern Warfare engine, like the modern Modern Warfare engine. So like this game's going to look and feel just slightly different because it has to be on that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 engine and not that old Black Ops modified engine from back in the day. So it's going to have like that weird tactical sprint and busting through doors and some of those things that are a little more tactical that are generally associated more with Modern Warfare, which I don't love and a lot of people don't love, but it's not the end of the world, because they did tout, and a lot of people who've played the game or seen the game more extensively have already said it does feel like they've heavily modified it to look and feel more Black Ops than Modern Warfare, despite the engines it's being made on. They also tout a bunch of these new like accessibility, and not even accessibility, but just like kind of like customization settings where like you can like turn on settings to make it so you have to press fewer buttons to do certain actions, like always sprint or like auto vault over objects, or like do things so you can minimize the amount of buttons you have to press so you can spend more time with your hands on the trigger ready to shoot. And you can also turn on and off the Omni movement if you don't like it and you want more of a classic Call of Duty kind of gunplay style. They said there's going to be 12 6v6 maps, mostly 3-lane. So very classic Black Ops maps, and they said nothing's a carryover. So all the maps are originals, with a new version of Nuketown as always, because it is Black Ops, of course. And then there's going to be some four strike maps as well, so 16 maps total. The HUD is customizable, so that's with streamers in mind, that you can move like your HUD map and your ammo count and all that to different corners of the screen if you want to customize that. Progression, this was a big one. So in multiplayer, they're going back to old school prestige, so it's not that stupid fucking seasonal prestige where you can't prestige for the first month of the game, and then when season 1 comes out, you can only prestige to like an unlimited cap during level 1, and then it resets in season 2. None of that. It's like old school Call of Duty where there's 10 prestiges. You can go through them starting the day the game comes out at your own pace. And then if you reach max prestige, there's like a god tier prestige. I forget what it's called, but it's like 1,000 additional prestige levels. It's like master level or something like that. So just like a lot of ways to keep like the hardcore people coming back to play more and more. And then they touched on zombies a little bit. Unfortunately, they said not as much as I would have liked to hear, but they said, hey, that omnidirectional movement stuff is coming to zombies as well. It's going to be a continuation of the story from the most recent Call of Duty Zombies maps, and that's really about all we saw. But they said there's going to be 2 maps at launch for zombies, and they're pretty confident that's going to be some of the best zombies that we've seen. Listen, here's the thing. The game has had 4 years in development, so I'm very confident that we're going to get a lot of thoughtful, highly polished, high-quality content in this game from the multiplayer, the campaign, and the zombies. So I just feel confident on all fronts that this is going to be a great one. And then at the end, they're like, should we talk about Warzone? And someone in the background goes, no! So I know they meant that as like, we're not ready to reveal those details yet, but I kind of heard that as like, fuck Warzone, nobody cares about Warzone, to which I said, fuck yeah, nobody cares about Warzone. And then they said, we'll release a lot more info, including like betas and alphas and shit, on August 28th when they do their annual COD Next event. So stay tuned to late August for the next big update on this game. But for now, that's really it. I feel like unless you're like a super hardcore Call of Duty fan, we don't really need to get into all the nitty gritty. We don't need to go freeze frame and try to analyze all the things that they're changing about the game, because I love Call of Duty. I'll probably pump plenty of hours into this game, but I'm not like a hyper nerd who plays the game on a more meta level. I just like to burn free time running around and shooting stuff. So that's it. Overall, thought it was a pretty good direct. I wonder how they'll handle those for future reference, though, because like, I understand this year they wanted to do their, after the showcase, they always do one of those focused directs on like their big game of the year. And I understand why this year they wanted to do that on Call of Duty, is because you have Call of Duty. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to tout to the world like, hey, Call of Duty, stop associating it with PlayStation. It's owned by Xbox now. Hey, it's a Game Pass game. Like, you want it. That's your biggest budget game that you're making this year. It's your biggest release. It's the one you have the most has the most pressure to sell out of all your games. So I get why they chose Black Ops 6 to be the focus game of the year. But I wonder if that's the plan for every year going forward, because like, if they didn't own Activision, if that deal didn't go through, you would assume that the game they would have done that direct for this year would have been Indiana Jones, right? And then what about next year? Because Call of Duty is an annualized franchise, so should we expect every year the little direct event after the showcase is always going to be that year's Call of Duty? No, that's ridiculous. So like, what about next year? It should be Fable, right? We should do like a Fable direct after the showcase. So I just wonder what the plan is in that regard, but just a little anecdote, just something I'm thinking of. But guys, that's going to do it. I got to get this thing edited and in the can, so let's put a stop to it there. And remember, so this is going to go up Monday morning. On Thursday, we'll be back to our regular episodes, and we'll talk about Summer Game Fest and Ubisoft Forward and all the Halo rumors about PlayStation 5. We'll get into all that shit. We'll get into all that shit in a couple days on Thursday when we get back to the regular schedule. But until then, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys really loved the showcase, and I look forward to your feedback. So let me know what you guys thought. Have a great week. Be safe. And until next time, until Thursday, power your dreams.